Yep. This had to be soundtrack of last night's not so secret Big 12 meeting, right? That Oklahoma and Texas just decided not to show up to. They got in need of some inspiration, of a good cheesy 80s sitcom theme song like Perfect Strangers, maybe a little harmonica in their lives there in the Big 12. That'll solve everything. Phil, what a week we've had. What a week we've had. I mean, we started with $1 million quarterback, or what I thought might be just Shane Beamer's debut as the South Carolina coach at SEC Media Days. You got an Alabama $1 million quarterback. Now you got Oklahoma and Texas SEC talk in the Big 12 trying to figure out what to do if that happens. What did you make of the secret meeting talk last night that turned out to be not so secret at all?
I was going to say, one was Texas, and I didn't know this, and I don't know if anybody ever said this anywhere. Was Texas and Oklahoma even invited?
They were. They were absolutely invited, and they politely declined. Awkward.
It's hard not to say that this is going to happen at this point, right?
No doubt. When I mentioned 80% yesterday, I'd say that percentage has only gone up just from very unofficial kind of gut feel and reading the tea leaves.
I mean, it's well, and let me say this. When I say this is going to happen, what I mean is I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the SEC. I think there's some moving parts there. Texas and Oklahoma are packing up their bags, taking their footballs, and they're going to a new conference. And the more I thought about this yesterday, the more I thought, so you've got South Carolina fans who, I don't know, did we get, would you say we got a clear answer on at least our listeners, on at least our portion of the population? You don't think we got a clear answer on what they want?
No, let's see. I'm going to check the results right now. Pearson Fowler just did a simple yes or no. Do you want Texas and Oklahoma in the
Who saw the results at any point? Anyone?
I did, yeah, at some point.
Did you see the results at any point?
No.
What's your guess? I'm going to say 65% no. I think slightly more people want the SEC to stay as it is.
Well, what about you?
I'd probably lean no. Yeah, I'd probably lean no.
Patrick, 64.5%. Congratulations.
Nice. That
more than 315 votes in yesterday. Excellent start to the show. Patrick's coming out on fire. The question, I guess, then is why? Why are those numbers like they are?
All right, let me
right on the number basically. What's the rationale?
I mean,
he has gone to the phone.
We're starting at 6:09 on the phones this morning. Love it. It's like Patrick he's filling in for Jen Jensen producing in the Herndon Chevrolet studios. Be a full-time host listening to the show. Patrick, while you're answering the phone there, I was asking, why do you think that number is? Since you almost nailed the number exactly, why do you think more people are going no right now than yes?
I think people are just resistant to all types of change. And they kind of like the sanctity of the SEC. And then there's also the people that just hate Texas for any particular reason.
Phil, I think it's more of a difficult path to a championship than anything else from what we heard yesterday anyway. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think it's something along those lines where I think it's what Patrick said. People are resistant to change. Good grief, I know that change is difficult for me, but when you talk about a sport like this, and it's going to, the whole sport is basically going to evolve right now. And the last 45 days or so, when you talk about the expansion of the playoffs, which is coming down the pipe, the name, image, likeness, which is coming down the pipe, or has already happened. And now you talk about the evolution of conferences and possibly the expansion, not just to the SEC, because I don't think the SEC is going to be the only one that goes to 16. I think they're going to be the one that starts it. So I would ask, I would ask multiple questions today, and I thought about this yesterday. People have to understand, because there's a lot of weird things. There's a lot of things that people are just throwing out there that are not actually going to happen. Like people say, well, let's just go get North Carolina State and Virginia Tech, well, or Miami and Florida State. Well, those schools don't want to leave the ACC. They're not interested. Okay, so if you're going to go to 16, who out there that you can get you realistically want? Would you rather take Oklahoma State and West Virginia? That has zero help financially. And I'll go ahead and tell you, if my opinion, if Texas and Oklahoma don't get into the SEC, they're probably going to go to the ACC. That's their best landing spot. I don't see them going to the Big Ten, and I don't see them wanting to go to the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 would be option number 3. And so what I mean by this is, if Texas and Oklahoma go to the ACC, guess whose conference now looks a lot more prestigious? Who can use those 2 name brands to now circle back to a brand new television contract and get very close, in my opinion, to what the SEC and Big Ten are currently doing. And you can, will it help Clemson? I don't know. I don't know if it'll help Clemson at all. They throw all their money at football to begin with, but it will help other schools like Georgia Tech, like North Carolina State, schools that you're recruiting against, who now would be making a lot more money because you turned down Texas and Oklahoma. And I think that's why Greg Sankey will basically look at the other 12 members, the voting members of the league, and be like, look, we're going to stay the preeminent league here in college football. You're going to vote yes. And if you don't want to vote yes, you can go find another conference, and we'll pick somebody else up. And, you know, Alabama and all them will follow. Everybody will fall in line. I think this is a Greg Sankey deal. This is not an SEC deal. Greg Sankey sees what would happen if Texas and Oklahoma went to the ACC and made that conference a much, much, much better conference with their name and prestige. So that's one question. But who else would you want Texas and Oklahoma going to the ACC? Where then, in my opinion, the ACC would be very, very close to the SEC and Big Ten in terms of revenue. Are you okay with that? And if you're okay with that, then who do you want to get? Do you want to try and pluck 2 other teams out of the Big 12 and water down the SEC? Do you want to go get like a Central Florida and a Cincinnati? You got to think about who your options are, because it looks like we're heading to 4 16-team leagues. So there's a lot of things. I think that those are the first 2 questions that I would have. And then this question got brought up to me yesterday. Not that I think this is not a realistic possibility, but have South Carolina fans' opinion changed? Would they want Clemson just in general in the SEC?
I think we've asked this question, and it's yes.
We were talking about this. I think it is yes. A Clemson fan that I had lunch with yesterday, a good buddy of mine, said he thinks it's no. And I said, no, I think South Carolina fans are for Clemson being in the SEC now. I could be wrong on that. So those 3 different questions I had there, just in terms of how this shakes out.
I think the answer for Clemson is just how you view the program. Like if you enjoy telling Clemson fans, yeah, you made the playoffs, that's just because your conference is terrible. If you like having that excuse, that's one thing. But if you genuinely think that if they come to the SEC, they're not going to make the playoffs anymore because they'll have to play a tough schedule and Georgia will take them down or Florida will take them down, then you, of course, want it. But then there's also people that just love having the bragging rights of we're in the SEC and you're in the ACC. So, haha.
Let me also bring this point up, because I've seen this a lot. And it's funny, we get 2 texts in right at 6:11. And I feel like both of the texters are saying the same thing. 6:11, anonymous texter says, if they're going to branch outside of the southeast of the United States, then they need to rebrand the conference. I never liked Texas A&M being in the conference, but that's where we are. And then Hot Sauce Ross weighs in and says, I think it's a geographic thing. We shouldn't have A&M and Missouri in either. It's getting watered down, but not by quality. Why is everybody so worried about geographics with the just?
It's just dumb. Like I don't know. I was trying to figure out what I think the dumbest one is, and I think it's the fact that Louisville is in the Atlantic Coast Conference in Louisville, Kentucky.
Dumber than Missouri or Texas A&M in the Southeastern Conference?
Yeah, because I mean you can kind of stretch it, but like when you say the Atlantic Coast, we're talking about the dead center, like the true dead center of the nation. They couldn't be more in the center if they tried.
Like back when these conferences were really formed is when basically what, Tim, you use trains to get from place to place,
Right.
bus rides. That's why it had to be geographic. Now we have developed other modes of transportation. The geographic thing doesn't bother me. I mean, look, when I go to, if you're going to play, there's no way, in my opinion, that Texas and Oklahoma end up in your conference or in your division. I'm sorry. And so I don't see a point where you're having to go out there every 2 years. If you're a fan, if you're worried about this being a fan thing, it's a trip that you would make once, maybe every, what do you think, every 10 years? If you get to play them once every 4 years, if they went to this pod system, I was listening to Heath yesterday afternoon. He seems pretty strong on the fact that they could do the pod system for divisions, or however you want to label it, where you'd have 4 teams in each pod. You play all 3 of your teams in the pod, then you play 2 from each other pod.
They have to, right? Because if you don't do that, you're going to go even longer now. Like, what was it, 10 years between playing Alabama? It's going to be more than that with 2 more teams. It's going to be the same, if not more.
Yeah,
you're going to go 15 years without playing a team sometimes, or 25 years without seeing a stadium.
Yeah, so you're probably right. You have to rethink scheduling. A lot, again, the thing that now I'm having to come to acceptance with is what we just started the whole conversation with. It's about change. And Patrick, you hit it. People don't handle change well. I can speak for myself. Tim and Jen have watched me over 5 years as I've gone through some changes in my life. Not handle it particularly well. Just simple things. Just simple things, like my seat being moved in the studio. Never really handled that all that well. So,
yeah, I don't think it's just change, though. I think a lot of it is what we heard from yesterday about the difficulty of winning a Southeastern Conference championship, especially in football, at Oklahoma and Texas. And I get it. That was very polarizing yesterday. A couple of different callers. Richard, I think, was adamant that South Carolina would never win an SEC championship with those 2 additions into the conference, and Allen was like, that is the exact wrong way to look at it. That's got to fire it up, and you got to beat the best to be the best. I get it. To me, it's the combination of the name brand and the proven perennial powerhouse in Oklahoma, especially Texas, having the potential to get back to the top of the college football mountaintop, and the geographics. Because I don't know what would be the 2 teams that would get kind of sweeping approval. Would be Virginia Tech and NC State, that at least a couple of people mentioned yesterday.
I don't think no. I mean, I think yes, if they're actually concerned about the geography, but I don't think that's the reason people are concerned. I think that's just an excuse. I really just think that SEC fans are so protective over being in the SEC, and South Carolina fans, like, that's why somebody mentioned, Missouri and Texas A&M. It's not the regional thing. It's just they were the new guys. And people were like, hey, when we were the new guys, it was cool, but we don't want anybody else adding. This is our thing. We're in the SEC. We are the most prestigious conference. And the more people get added to it, and the lower down the pecking order South Carolina goes, because obviously Texas and Oklahoma come with far more prestige as a football program than South Carolina does, and it's just knocking them further down the pecking order as in prestige in all of college football. So I just think they don't want anyone else joining the SEC because that's our thing. And I'm sure that there's Alabama fans and the charter schools that were like, why are we adding South Carolina and Arkansas? We have 10 teams. We're good just like that. 10's the perfect number. We don't want them. I think people are always like that with the SEC.
I think Gamecock Will is making the perfect Patrick Perrette analogy this morning on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, 803-404-6100. So the SEC is basically doing the Marvel comic thing, he says. It started with some really strong superpowers. Now we're to Ant-Man and Wasp Girl.
Except the opposite. It's like if we started with Ant-Man and the Wasp and then added Superman and Batman.
I agree.
Because they're clearly more, they're just, if you were ranking just the general the programs, history, money, fan base, everything, just the most prestigious programs in college football is where do Texas and Oklahoma rank? Like, what SEC teams are ahead of either of them? Alabama?
Alabama for sure.
Is that it? Is Texas and Oklahoma now 2 and 3?
I think Florida, Georgia has to
compete with them. Yeah.
Right. But what about you? How do you see it? I'm sure Auburn would be up and raising their hands, and Texas A&M and the whole deal, but they don't quite compete in my mind.
I mean, nationally, who's even in this conversation? Like Notre
Right.
Dame, of course, Ohio State, Michigan. I don't know.
Right.
Oh boy, this is something made for our show. Which programs are Batman and
You can think
Superman
about it.
and
You can think about it, and
I started thinking
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't know. Alabama's probably like Superman right now, and I guess Georgia's, I don't know, maybe Batman.
But it's. I mean, a South Carolina fan can't say, "Hey, we're the Avengers," and Texas and Oklahoma, you guys are Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like that's just not accurate.
Hey, and if we're gonna go with this analogy, Gamecock Will points out, FYI, those are DC comics. Okay,
Yeah.
so Marvel when you're going Batman and Superman. So
It's a crossover.
I'm not a comic book.
I was gonna say
It's Justice League and Avengers. It's whatever.
I don't really know all the characters here. And now,
I mean, if you're talking to the Avengers, it's Captain America, Hulk, Iron Man. Those are the main, and Thor. Those are the main four.
You guys got Bill really using the creative.
Yeah, we got to just let him think.
what do you think, Florida? What do you think? Like Florida's Lex Luthor? Who's the bad guy?
Lex Luthor is a bad guy.
That's what I'm saying.
Superman's
Who's the
mortal
villain?
enemy.
Like, is it Florida?
Patrick, did you really think Bill that Lex Luthor was a bad guy?
I don't know that. I don't ever assume that Bill knows anything about pop culture.
No, I know, but I know some of this. But maybe Texas would be Lex Luthor. I think that.
Yeah, I mean he's coming in. Yeah,
they're coming in, and they're already considered a villain. I think so. I think you're adding Lex Luthor. Was he trying to do Marvel or DC? Do I know? Do I have to break this down? This is like our show right here.
Loki being the mortal enemy in the original Avengers movie. Then he joins the team by the end.
Wow.
Maybe Loki. I think Loki. By the way, is that a good show? Have you watched it?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It's quick. It's 6 episodes, 30 minutes each. Basically, you can knock it out in a day if you really wanted to.
I'd go
confusing. I don't think you'd like it, to be honest. I don't think you'd like it.
Really? Is it too steeped in what is it? DC?
You definitely have to know a lot of background. You don't have to, but it definitely works better. All of those shows work better if you've seen all the movies. There's 20-something movies, so. I would not be getting into the shows if I have not seen all the movies.
I sat on my porch last night and looked at the moon. It was beautiful. I had a cigar. I didn't sit inside. I didn't sit inside and watch movies.
Don't waste your time on the Marvel shows. You won't like them.
Yeah.
David says, Bill thinking is dangerous.
I like this though. I'm stuck on Texas as Lex Luthor, and I'm leaning. Who is Oklahoma in this situation?
Thanos.
That's the really big. Angry guy that's trying to destroy the world, right?
Yeah.
I've read a little bit.
I got nothing on the comic book characters. You guys can continue to do this if you want to. You can also weigh in on today's poll question on Twitter at TimHill1075. What Patrick brought up. Would you want Clemson in the SEC? Very simple, yes or no. The early voting is pretty interesting so far. We're out to a strong no right now. 3 out of 4 of the early votes going no, you would not want Clemson to join the SEC. Again, at TimHill1075 on Twitter, where you can find that. Also, the video stream sponsored by Buford Lending up and rolling on Twitter. The station handle at 1075. The game up and rolling on Facebook and YouTube Live as well. However you're joining the program, we appreciate it. 803-404-6100 if you would like to weigh in on the Love Chevy phone line or the Cool Care Heating in the Air text line. It's the early game. It's 1075.
You're listening
Clear.
to the home of the game, WNK.
See you over there, Tay and Casey. Patrick's working on it. So, Patrick, is this not just a coupler or a...
I don't think so. I think these buttons were pressed over here that said external program in the satellite, and I switched it to the radio. Casey and Tay, it was DA earlier. Can you confirm that it's still currently on the radio is DA? Because I don't think I thought I fixed it.
Well, Casey's saying the stream is like that.
The stream is like that.
Yeah, he's listening on iHeart. And Tay, are you listening to the stream as well? Or are you on the?
NKT is streaming program 1.
Yep, that's what we need there.
Be reset or? I mean, we're getting texts.
Right. Okay.
I'll listen on my app right now.
Thank you.
Pros bring a little extra.
Stacy has it. Because the caller I got early was telling me that he was listening on
Right.
radio. I think they're together. I think we're good.
Let's see. So Tay was also doing the stream, and Stacy says he has us on over the air on the radio. So the last thing to get fixed here is the stream. But you've got that up and listening to it. You got just ads right now.
Yeah.
We mean free. Take advantage of a free estimate and find out how the government can provide the best.
Well, it's a good sign if we're running at.
Yeah. I think the problem was solved together. I do believe.
147.
So working through those technical issues. Thanks for the help, guys.
So many commercials.
All right. Where's our was it Trey? Where's our Olympics guy? I got my TV on set to watch the
Opening ceremony. 33 minutes.
What are we watching this morning, Olympics wise?
Opening ceremony.
Oh, that's right.
I just set up a Peacock account this morning so I could get that.
Wow.
Yeah, Tim, how'd you play yesterday?
I played all right. Broke 90, which is always good for me. You get out on the water?
Stayed out of the water?
Did you take the boat out?
Oh, no. We actually did some ribs. Put them on the grill for like 30 minutes.
Nice.
Had it real hot, got a good char on them, and then put them in the oven for about 45 minutes, I think, to an hour. They were really good. No, I might go to Charleston today. Take the kids, go down for the day, go to Charleston, hit the beach. Everything's. I hadn't even looked at hotel prices, but I got a wedding I got to go to tomorrow night. I got to be back in town. See what see what hotel prices are down there, either at Folly or Isle of Palms. Go with not cheap. Is there anything of oh yeah, no, that's oh nice. I can't even look at today. No wait. No, did we miss any big news in the Olympics yesterday? Did anything happen?
I watched Team
Anybody
USA
win something big?
beat Canada in softball.
Beat Canada?
That was
Good Lord. The Comfort Inn at Patriots Point, the Comfort Inn is $323.
Wow.
The Days Inn in Charleston's historic district is $314. I think it's like 167 regular, double the price. There's a Red Roof Inn in Mount Pleasant at Patriots Point for $250.
I think we're good.
So yeah, probably not staying in Charleston tonight.
Yeah, not terrible, Craig. Not terrible. Broke 90. Nothing to brag about.
You're up.
So the hypothesis is Gamecock fans would prefer Clemson in the SEC as opposed to Oklahoma and Texas right now because it takes away any kind of excuse or it gives Clemson the gauntlet of an SEC schedule that the Gamecock fans have kind of been able to rely on and point over to the old ACC schedule and say, yeah, you're winning, but the schedule just isn't anywhere close to what SEC teams have to go through. Is that the theory there, Patrick?
I think not necessarily. I think if you gave the four options, Clemson, Texas, both or none, or neither would be the winner. And then I think Texas, and then I think the SEC fans or South Carolina fans don't want to expand at all. But if they had to expand and you said it's Texas and Oklahoma or Clemson and whoever, I think they would pick Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they want Clemson more. I think there are. I think they would be. I think your poll that you just put out is going to be very, very polarizing. But I would want all of them. I don't care. Just bring them all on.
You're going super conference. Bill, you
Yeah,
see
you're
good
just-
excuse there. I was a little confused as well.
Well, I mean,
Was that not a good explanation?
well, no,
I did-
your initial, the way you described it, well, I felt like it was a poll. You feel like Texas, Oklahoma, Clemson, or none. I was like, yeah, it'd be like 98% none. I get the feeling South Carolina fans as a whole so far through 3 hours yesterday and 30 minutes this morning are not in favor of expansion. And I can honestly probably say that on Knoxville Sports Radio, on Tuscaloosa Sports Radio, in Fayetteville Sports Radio, definitely in College Station, that nobody wants to expand. But this is where we're probably going. This is going to be the new era of college football. What I'm interested to see is again the timeline for this. We all think it's 2025, right? But it appears Texas and Oklahoma are pretty close to making the move. And I got to admit,
Well, that's one of the things that came out of this meeting last night is that Big 12 officials say they expect their members to adhere to the conference bylaws, is how they put it, and the TV contracts that have been signed. And if not, then the way that the agreements are written, that you have to give 18 months notice and then pay a hefty exit fee. It's called a commitment buyout fee, which basically is you have to pay the money that you were going to be owed. Like last year, the Big 12 paid out $38 million per school. So the proposed buyout right now for each school would be $76 million, and that's just to get out in 2025. Bill, why do you think it could happen before then?
I don't know if two teams are going to. I mean, this appears to be moving quickly, right? Like, do you guys feel that by the end of August we're going to have a resolution to this, or do you think this drags into college football season?
It's a good question, man. I never would have thought, first of all, that anything like this hypothetical new super conference thing. I thought from a money-making standpoint, when you're paying out each of your schools $38 million, and the Big 12 is what, third, I think, in the Power 5 conferences as far as revenue generated. Big 10 and SEC are 1 and 2, and I think the Big 12 is third. but I never fathomed that these schools would be looking around getting paid that much money and say, you know what, we gotta make a move. I just didn't think that was going to happen. But obviously, from what we've heard this week and the Big 12 meeting last night, and how awkward is this too? So they have a meeting to talk about Oklahoma and Texas, and they don't have a meeting, right? 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even, you would meet in person and talk about this. In 2021, it's a video conference. It's a Zoom call. So Oklahoma and Texas, zero excuses not being able to get on there and push a right to join the video conference. They can't say, oh, our officials were unable to be reached and the whole thing. You can put it on your phone. It's just, now it's just going to be awkward, I think, is your point, Bill, right? If you have, this is like having a disgruntled employee on your staff just living out his or her contract. This is what you don't see, right? This is when you see people let go and contracts worked around because clearly the current situation is untenable. It's a bad look for the Big 12 if these two schools have already agreed to move on to the SEC in 4 years from now, and then they're kind of stuck playing in the Big 12 because that's what the contract is. I think, is that more to your point now?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, and Texas can come up with the money. Texas will be able to come up with the money. Even if it's $100 million, if it's $150 million, whatever it is, that group will come up with the money. Oklahoma, I would assume maybe there's big oil money in Oklahoma. I don't know. Maybe people have gone back to Texas, boosters who have gone back and made a bunch of money, because you're gonna have to generate it from somewhere, and it's not going to come from the school's going to be hard pressed to come up with it. So they're going to have to look to boosters and alums to fund that. So you're going to have like, I say, private groups of large, well-off boosters. And I think Texas would have no problem being able to raise, whatever that number is. Oklahoma, again, I have no idea about the fan base there and how many of them have gone back into Texas and become wealthy oil people. Sure. So anyway, the point being is it's hard for me to envision this. I do think this is going to move real quickly at the rate that this has already moved. I think that this is going to move very quickly, and that by the end of August, we're going to kind of understand where things are going. I'll say it again, and all this is conspiracy theory, and maybe everything settles down, and the Big 12 elects to try and grow instead of become obsolete, completely be out of the game. But I still think Notre Dame has got a behind the scenes deal pretty much in place with the ACC. I find it hard to believe that their athletic director agreed to this new 12-team playoff where only conference champions can get a bye, and that would put Notre Dame out of ever having a bye in the new college football playoff. Now, maybe it's not public yet. Maybe it's just like this Texas and Oklahoma thing that was behind closed doors until it got put out in the open. But I've got to think that there was word of this starting to circulate, and it just hit mainstream media, and that's exactly what happened on Wednesday.
Tim M. on the YouTube live stream, we have to remember that if Texas and Oklahoma come to the SEC, it's not going to affect just football, but the other sports. Baseball is going to be great. I don't think anybody would deny that the competition level goes up if Oklahoma and Texas comes into your conference. The question becomes, how strategically wise is it to add a couple of really good athletic departments into your already very strong and top of the food chain conference with 14 teams? I think that's kind of where we were yesterday, and those two different sides, I think, are very legit. You can see it in both ways. I get it. Bill, as far as this thing moving fast, to me, it's a PR thing now, right? And just got a text in from Gene on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. The only way that Oklahoma and Texas make the move into the SEC is if the money and the politicians of each state decide they will move. And that's another piece to this thing, right? Because now that the word is out that Oklahoma and Texas want this to happen, it's all the fallout. And unfortunately, when this kind of money is involved, I mean, $38 million per school is what the Big 12 paid out last year. And Now Oklahoma and Texas are looking for a better deal. And then Texas Tech and Texas A&M raise their hand and say, wait, we don't like what you're doing. Oklahoma State obviously has a problem in the state of Oklahoma. And that's where this thing could get really, really messy. And the SEC, Greg Sankey's job is to avoid that from happening. I can't imagine everything that goes into this, but I'm with you too, from an ACC and Notre Dame perspective, that maybe you're saying this is moving so fast. You think a lot of these things have already been agreed upon behind closed doors, or there is a path to making this happen in both instances, right?
I think, and again, right now there's just a lot of speculation,
but it's not just that, right? This is not just one report from the Houston Chronicle, because when the Big 12 has a Zoom call basically the next night.
No. Where I was going to go with this, there's a lot of speculation, but I think that this has been in the works for a while. And yesterday, maybe it was Wednesday, yesterday, I guess, there was a theory, and I didn't research this. I didn't take the time to go back and look at the exact beat writer. The theory is that Texas A&M helped this Houston Chronicle reporter put this out to put the brakes on this. That the reason this was leaked was because of Texas A&M not wanting Texas in the SEC, and that it had gotten so far down the tracks that Texas A&M got upset, was like, we got to get this out into the public and kind of inform others what's going on so as to stop Texas. I mean, there's some conspiracy theory stuff, but it's interesting. And the reason I say, the reason I kind of go back to what I just said just regarding it is because if Texas A&M knew, then other ADs or conference commissioners had probably heard this is what's happening. And it's hard for me to believe they aren't working behind the scenes to basically go ahead and line up the two teams that they want to bring to their conference. That's the Big Ten included, the ACC, again, with that Notre Dame talk, and the Pac-12, although you saw the Pac-12 commissioner's tweet, I think from late Wednesday afternoon or something, like, what a first month on the job, or,
Yep.
So
yeah, I like that guy so far. He speaks like a normal person as opposed to some sort of political robot out there. No, I hear what you're saying exactly. That totally makes sense to me. That's how this got out. That it wasn't some investigative reporter who was digging behind the scenes. It was a call from a ticked off Texas A&M booster saying, "Hey man, this is going on. You need to look into this, and this needs to get out because." it goes without saying, we don't want this happening. Texas A&M's been very clear about that, and they're not going to be the only ones. And if you're an athletic director that is blindsided by this, to me, you're not very plugged in to what's going on, because don't forget ESPN's role in all this, right? With all this money involved and all the conference TV rights involved, certainly ESPN has a huge hand in Oklahoma and Texas possibly moving from the Big 12 to the SEC. They have a Longhorn network. So they have a lot invested in a lot of different ways there. And I think that's where, as fans, we don't understand how a lot of these games, made for TV games, get done behind the scenes and the whole thing. And certainly ESPN has been feeling it. That's where I would think you would get a bit of a heads up from an executive, someone who is privy to things being worked out behind the scenes like this. If you're an athletic director at one of these Power 5 schools, I'm sure you've gotten wind of it. And now the question is, all right, how have you reacted? Are we ever going to know how these guys have reacted behind the scenes? And then, or do we just get the publicly unified vote that has basically been strong-armed from a commissioner because it's the best for the bottom line? And that's what the conference commissioner has determined and built. Is, like you said, the SEC would not want Oklahoma and Texas to go anywhere else, because then the brand and the conference's standing is threatened. So you go out and you bring them in yourself, and you don't allow those member schools to raise their hands and say, we don't want this. Now, this is going to happen.
Yeah, look, from a brand name standpoint, let's just hypothetically say this, because I still think you're right. Texas is going to do what Texas wants to do. The politicians in Texas, Texas Tech, TCU, Baylor, they're not going to be able to stop this. All right, they don't have the power there. I know that there'll be people. I think I was listening to Heath yesterday. There's like a Texas Tech representative of the state who's in there and who's trying to pass legislation that the University of Texas just can't up and leave and affect the entire conference, and in turn jobs and economics down there. I was reading this tweet that he put out, but Texas is going to do what Texas wants to do. If you hypothetically turn Texas away, and Texas and Notre Dame combined end up in the ACC on brand name recognition, Texas, Notre Dame, Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, Miami, that rivals the SEC. Maybe it doesn't rival on the field right now, but let me tell you, they're going to be able to go. The ACC will then be able to go to ESPN, ABC, and they'll be able to negotiate a pretty large television contract that will be up there financially with the SEC. And what that will mean is that the money flowing back into those programs, the ACC can now look, Clemson competes. So please don't think that this is more with the middle tier of the ACC, with the Georgia Techs and with the Virginias and the North Carolina States getting a lot more money to grow and be competitive and be bigger.
What a world. What a week it's been. Glad you're spending part of your Friday with us. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
Clear.
After all the SEC Media Day information, the Texas-Oklahoma story, everything that's gone on this weekend, I'm going to need an incredible night of sleep. It's a great night every night in a Sleep Number bed. Put the Sleep Number setting on 55. But I'll tell you what, more than most weeks, I'm looking forward to a great Friday night of sleep, being able to sleep in the morning, get rested, refreshed, ready for a whole new week next week. You can do the same. Right now, discover proven quality sleep. Save up to $1,200 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds and adjustable bases plus special financing. Subject to credit approval. Minimum monthly payments required. See sleepnumber.com for details. However, this deal ends Monday. So you got this weekend to visit a Sleep Number store and check out how you can save $1,200 on select Sleep Number 360 smart beds and adjustable bases. Just go to one of the stores here in the Midlands. One in Irmo on Harbison Boulevard across from Buffalo Wild Wings. The other in Columbia, 2 Notch Road across from Sand Hills Mall. You can always check them out on the web, sleepnumber.com. I'm telling you what, you're going to need a great night of sleep. Football season is gearing up. We're about to be all excited for actual games, getting back into the stadium. You're going to want to be rested, refreshed, and ready to go. So make the switch to Sleep Number today and find out what a great night of sleep is truly like.
Hey, appreciate the help, man. Casey, thank you guys. The feedback with the technical issues. Looks like we got that solved now. Looks like Patrick's is intensely going to traffic update for the music stations. Look at that professional focus he's got.
Yeah, he's working hard behind the scenes this morning.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's got a million different things to keep track of. So you guys' feedback on the stream, very appreciated. And on the air stuff. Nice work fixing it, Patrick. Do you have to call the engineer?
No, I texted him and then texted him that I got it figured out. So that's unfortunate because I didn't do anything different.
You did anything different? It just worked?
I just pressed the same button I did the first time and it worked.
Weird.
Yeah. So I wish that could have happened without any communication, but
I hear you. But he would need to know that it happened to begin with. So it doesn't happen again, but not that that's going to keep it from happening again necessarily. So 10 minutes from now, opening ceremonies for real.
Yep.
That's what it says. They're gonna
Coverage will
start it.
start in 5 minutes.
I got a picture of the women's basketball team, Asia Wilson and company, ready to go. Looks like almost like blue Where's Waldo shirts a little bit. Horizontal white stripes with navy blue, and it looks like jeans and a navy blazer-ish thing. Team USA. Sue Bird being an exception. Looks like she's going with the white jacket since she's carrying the flag.
I think we're going to end up taking the extra minute here.
Sounds good. Who was having the birthday today? Is that Chris that turned 41?
What?
Yeah, Chris, that a boy. You and Jen, very close to the birthdays.
Oh yeah, 41.
And then, what's up with Mark here? Oh man, you have to take your dog to have ACL surgery.
Actually, we don't need the extra minute, by the way. We can go right into the closed bed, and we'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, we're back. Yeah.
Typically, a big lefty who strikes out a bunch of guys had a 2.84 ERA. Deciding to come back to school when the Gamecocks need pitching and lost a ton. That would be big news for us on the early game. But Julian Bosnick's return, easy to overlook, as well as the official announcement of Justin Parker as the new Gamecocks pitching coach on a day where the Big 12 admits this is a time of dramatic change within intercollegiate athletics. That's what it's been all about, huh, Bill? Not a complete change maybe in college football
20.
in the dynamic there, but certainly a drastic one seems on the horizon.
Yeah, it's going to be a complete new era of college football is what it seems.
10.
The days of our college football are over. The new era starts soon.
And so did the Olympic opening ceremonies. We'll talk about it. Hour 2 next.
Clear.
Let's see, did he hit it? What did he hit? Oh, just silky smooth.
Jerry Jones recently said he would do anything.
Can't see the sun, can you?
Obviously, everyone should want their team not to get to a Super Bowl, but also take home.
What was the deal exactly, Patrick? about the stream and the program being goofy?
Well, it was these buttons over here. The ones like all the way over here. They were pressed to external. Just the program one was the satellite icon, so I just had to bring it down to this one on the bottom. And when the stream finally got fixed, like all I did was press the button again, like off and on, and apparently it worked.
Weird.
I also toggled the barracks and coupler, but they were already set correctly, so I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Gotcha. It almost looks cooler to have the view of the board down there too.
It does. I don't know what the best angle is.
Yeah, because you got to keep your head in there. That's got to feel weird, huh?
I like sitting low. I bring the smaller chairs from the bullpen into here, so I don't sit up on
Really?
the big. Yeah. When I'm producing, at least.
Why do you think that is? You prefer that one?
Well, the board level is pretty low. Like when
Right.
we're in there, the counter's so high, you got to be up on the big stools anyway. And Jen doesn't even sit, so she doesn't use them. But I don't like
Right.
reaching down low, and I can actually lean back into this chair. I don't feel comfortable leaning back into the stools because I feel like they're just gonna snap.
I hate sitting low for anything. I always feel like
Ever?
golf.
I like being close too. I can be literally
Right.
on top of the board right here. I can just get my legs under the counter.
Hey, happy birthday to Rooster P as well. Got a lot of July birthdays. 65.
Oh,
Impressive, sir.
Right. Opening ceremonies are on.
yeah,
Another girl choice.
they just showed all the Team USA hanging out, and
Who's this lady?
Savannah Guthrie.
Savannah Guthrie. I know she's from like the Today Show or something, but I don't know what her name is.
Today show. I'm going to go try to get the ceremonies on for the family that's waking up here. Be right back.
Celebration felt like
So the families can't come, but the entire NBC staff can go to Tokyo?
Well, yeah, I think you're right.
Because these aren't even sports people. This is just the Today Show. They're all in Tokyo. Why do they need to be there?
Well, I was trying to figure out if they're there or if they're using some kind of backdrop, because I'm with you. Like I don't
think they're there
it's the way it looks. That is the way it looks.
because I'd never watched TV, but when I was in Tampa, they just had the Today Show on in the morning, and I think they were talking about it like they were going to be there.
Yeah, I don't quite understand why Mike Tree. I mean,
Well, it's fine for Mike Tirico because he's actually a sports guy, but like the whole Today Show staff, they're not sports people. Why do they need to be there? Because I just read a story of a Paralympian who her mom wasn't allowed to go. She's blind and deaf, and her
Yeah, I
mom wasn't
saw that.
allowed to be there. But whoever these people are, can go. No rhyme or reason to it. Tokyo is so big.
Yeah.
I want to go there very badly. Oh, here we go. Is it against some sort of rules to put my laptop on the camera?
That would probably seem like a violation of some sort. But as long as I'm not the one paying the fine, I say go ahead.
Cool video.
So what's the time difference? Do we figure out?
13 hours.
Tokyo's 8 p.m. right now. Is that right?
Yep.
Wow. And so are they doing opening ceremonies just in front of no one in the stadium?
Yeah, pretty
It's an
much.
empty
This
stadium,
act is
yeah.
in front of nobody. This person is literally in the stadium doing this. Almost. I mean, this is.
What are you seeing, Bill?
I don't know what I just saw.
There's some person walking and they're doing a fake shadow of her standing up, and it was a blooming flower.
Ah, the old blooming flower Olympics opening ceremonies routine.
I think they're showing athletes in Japan training in 2013, 2014, 2015. Oh, across the world. 2016 in Rio.
All right. We are up. You're up.
Well, now are Gamecock fans just more grizzled than they possibly were? Does this put a damper on the enthusiasm that the week started with Shane Beamer, first time at the SEC Media Days? Talking, basically make a direct plea to what fans in the country, and Oscar Delp, the state of Georgia native that seems to come down between the Bulldogs and the Gamecocks, got a commitment from a 4-star cornerback from Philadelphia earlier in the week in Keenan Nelson Jr. And then everything seems to have shifted even after. So I feel like I need to give the credit or put the blame on Nick Saban for stealing SEC Media Days headlines originally, speaking to Texas High School Coaches Association the day before he went to Birmingham. This was on Tuesday where the news came out that his quarterback played it down, basically, going to make $1 million, Bryce Young. And then it was Wednesday stealing the thunder. I mean, completely away from any college football news. Houston Chronicle article that Oklahoma and Texas have contacted the SEC about joining the conference. And now you get a meeting last night by the Big 12 members who invited, they said, Texas and Oklahoma, who just didn't bother to click on the button and open up the Zoom meeting. And you get the Big 12 releasing a statement saying it is a time, let me get the exact phrase here for you. This is a time of dramatic change within intercollegiate athletics. Bill, you connect the dots, and you remember back to Monday, Greg Sankey's basically opening statements, or we call it the State of the Union in the SEC, and times they are a-changing from Bob Dylan leads it off. And that has a deeper meaning, like we talked about. You think about Notre Dame's athletic director being part of, if not in charge of, the college football playoff committee that suggests expanding from 4 to 12. giving only 4 conference champions buys, knowing that Notre Dame's not in the conference the same way. Why would the guy that's from the school that's not in the conference want to make sure that his team doesn't get a bye? So connecting the dots is pretty simple to me, that the ACC seems right in there with Notre Dame, and that is on deck to happen. And now Oklahoma and Texas could very much happen as well as we sit here and the Olympic opening ceremonies in Tokyo are underway. What a week, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's been, but I mean, now you go back. Let's go back just a little bit further to I guess July 14th, I believe is when Mark Emmert did his. It was a week ago. We could go yesterday, Thursday.
He did his shoulder shrug, like, So I think we might be done here. You guys,
I mean, he
figure it out. You're right. It all does seem to fit together in retrospect, doesn't it?
He didn't specifically use college football, but the quote that I was kind of going back to, he says, we need to be ready to say, for field hockey is different than football. Wrestling is different than lacrosse, and not get so hung up on having everything be the same. If he was probably aware of this. I mean, again, I don't think this was super secret. I think it was secret to the public, but I would think that a lot of those within college athletics probably had heard rumors of this and potentially had, maybe did not know to the extent that how far this was down the path. But you got to look at that, and you wonder, Mark Emmert basically at that point shrugging his shoulders and saying, college football, we're not going to be able to hold on to the FBS. That's not something we're going to be able to manage and maintain any longer. That is going its own separate way. And to me, that's when he says he did use football. I didn't remember football last week, but when he says field hockey is different than football, he can still kind of control field hockey, can't he? I mean, that's not, that's not a huge animal to wrap your arms around. You still kind of control this. College football now. Does the NCAA want to get into trying to police what appears to be another division of college football, which will be the Power Four conferences of 16 teams, or 64, or 4 conferences of 16 teams, 64 overall teams, and then trying to figure out what to do with the MAC, the Sun Belt, the Mountain West, whatever other conference I'm leaving out now at this point. There's going to be a lot of
the American. So you're basically just thinking that the Big 12 is done at this point after what we hear last night in the meeting that happened without Texas and Oklahoma. The 8 schools say they want to keep things out in place how they are, because what can you do right now? I mean, this is, I don't know what analogy to make. Cheating on a spouse or whatever you want to say, maybe going behind your back if you're a business partner and talking to the rival company about joining them, right? Or merging your company with them without a hostile takeover, some kind of business coup or something. I don't know what analogy to make here, but I know that it is a brutal look for the Big 12 that your 2 highest profile schools are already linked to this. And now they're saying that, well, you signed your media rights through 2025. You're going to be bound to that. And there is also an exit fee that whatever you got paid, whatever you're getting paid from a media rights standpoint, which was $38 million last year, you're going to have to pay that out. And that's going to be not just a 1-year pay or a one-time payment. That's going to be for two years. So they're looking at $76 million to leave the Big 12 at this point, with how I'm reading what the Big 12 discussed last night, though. So where does that leave us, I guess, is the question as we sit here today. And you guys are, you got one eye on the opening ceremonies, which is maybe the weirdest thing of all time, that the Olympic opening ceremonies have no one in the Olympic Stadium, right?
Well, I think technically Mike Tirico and Savannah Guthrie are in there, is what we were trying to decide.
No fans allowed in the Olympic Stadium to watch the Olympic ceremony. This is basically a television show, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's basically what they're doing. And so I'm watching whatever. There's some string and some actors. And so that's happening right now here.
Some string and some actors?
It's called connecting the dots, and they're all pulling around these red strings and folding around them into this intricate.
That's what we're doing. in college sports, isn't it?
Basically, yes. This is basically, it's
It's nice. to be
Started
able to
out with a bunch of
ceremony.
people on ellipticals and treadmills in different parts of the stadium to embody
what
isolation,
I
how to be
will say this,
apart,
Patrick.
but not
See.
alone.
I will say this, Patrick. What they're doing with this rope or string, I would be a tangled mess. Like
Oh yeah,
She would be Mark Emmert.
I would be. I mean, you have to if you're not watching it. I don't like, but they're kind of some of them are really wrapped up in this string, like it's it's. It looks like something that I'd be trying to get out of a fishing. If I had an issue and I'm trying to undo a knot and my hands are all in there. But
That's
yeah,
me
so
with
they're-
the power cords with my setup, my remote setup here on the road.
definitely couldn't freestyle this thing.
No. If you either know your part or you don't. This is like I'll have a nightmare about this tonight about showing up to a test that I didn't realize that I had in college. But no, with college football now, and that's the big story. And it doesn't just pertain, in my opinion, to the SEC. I mean, if you're a Clemson fan, I think now you're looking at this and Notre Dame is contractually obligated to join. They over the next 15 years, if they join a conference, it's got to be the ACC. If you're Clemson right now, and maybe you're a Clemson fan, if you're getting into this, you look around and you go, well, who would we like to add to get to 16? Who would we want? Do you want to go pluck Oklahoma? To me, it comes down to a couple of schools. Do you want to go pluck Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Is that who do you want to get somebody like West Virginia, who geographically fits a little bit more in the Atlantic coast? I mean, at least it's closer. Do you want to go down and take another Florida school in Central Florida, who's got a huge fan base, who could be a very interesting program? Do you want to go try and make a play for Cincinnati? I think that's the next question, because it looks like Texas and Oklahoma are going to be able to get into the SEC. I think that's what's going to work out. Then what direction does the ACC go? They'll pick up Notre Dame and one other. The Big Ten probably goes in and takes Iowa State. I think Patrick is who you thought.
Well, that just seems natural because Iowa's already there. But I mean, the Big Ten's going to want a piece of this as much as anybody. I mean, we just assume that it's the ACC that's going to gobble up the next, like UCF or whoever. I don't even know who's out there for the Big Ten. Would they take Cincinnati?
I don't
Make
know.
them a power program. But they're going to want. I mean, they fancy themselves the like 1B to SEC's 1A in terms of football prominence, and they're not going to be happy about that. They're gonna be making moves.
Yeah,
They've plucked ACC schools before. I mean, they got Maryland out of there, and
True,
Maryland is a
but-
basketball school, and they took them for purely financial gain. I don't know what moves the Big Ten could make.
My feeling is the Big 12 is the, and for obvious reasons, but is the least stable. I think everybody in the ACC is content right now. It doesn't seem like you have someone looking to jump. And so I think it's going to be hard for the Big Ten to make that move this time. I think they're going to have to look around, and you're going to have to. Do you want to go pluck? There'll be when all is said and done here with the Big 12. There'll be 8 teams left. Is that right? 8 teams. Yeah, they got 10 teams in there. There'll be 8 teams left.
Well, 8 teams were on the meeting last night, on the call.
All right. So the Pac-12. I'm guessing I saw some reports last night. There was nobody that I really believed. I was trying to go back through some of what I would say is the more reputable college football reporters to see if any of them confirmed this. But I saw a few that mentioned that TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor have already reached out and just inquired about the Pac-12's interest into their programs. The Pac-12 is going to have plenty of opportunities to get in here and try and build their brand up to 16 teams. Is Boise State one of those that could potentially find their way into major college football? Because that's what this is going to be, I would assume. If you're one of those people that does not like seeing Clemson play South Carolina State, South Carolina play Wofford, and so forth and so on, and play the FCS teams that we have in our state, you're probably about to get your wish, because I think we're heading toward an era where it's the 64 teams that are in this power group here play each other, and there's no more of those type of games. Again, there's going to be a lot of change that comes with this. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and we kind of laughed, and I was like, I'm 39, and Tim, you're a little bit older than me. Our era of college football is over. The kids who are in high school and college now, their era of college football, their run here is about to begin with whatever we're going to get.
Including name, image, and likeness deals. What was it? Saw a 2023 basketball guy signing a deal today. Is that right?
Mikey Williams. Yeah, he's very popular. I've heard his name for years.
So is this kind of like a Seventh Woods type deal where you get popular through social media, get a big
I
following?
think so.
Huh?
I think
I mean-
so. I think he's done it himself, though. I mean, Seventh Woods blew up because of a Hoop mixtape and was just
Right.
popular on YouTube. I don't know that he did anything on social media. I could be wrong,
Gotcha.
but this kid's got 5 million followers. So
Oh,
yeah.
So he's already going to be cashing in. And again, I get it if you have the fundamental problem of playing sports for money, and it ruins the purity of the game. But I got to think about it as an American capitalist as well, man. You got 5 million people following you on social media. You should be able to monetize that. And this
Well,
is
there's
right.
thousands, or maybe not thousands. There are hundreds of 16-year-old TikTok stars that are millionaires already. So, I mean, there's no reason that the athlete shouldn't be able to do it. I mean, if he wasn't playing sports, he could do the exact same thing. So,
just this week alone has changed things dramatically for sure, and that's where the Big 12 is trying to get a handle on this as the Olympic ceremonies for Tokyo 2020 are finally underway on July 23rd, 2021, in front of an empty stadium. I feel like this is the Big 12 and the Olympics, probably the worst weeks ever, right? With the state of emergency declared in Tokyo and all of those implications as the Love Chevy phone lines start to light up at 803-404-6100 is the number. It's hard for us to digest, or hard for me to digest. I'm glad we can talk it out with you. Would love to hear your takes this morning at 803-404-6100. We're up and rolling on the video stream as well. YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitter as well. Oh, we're getting Patrick behind the scenes. I figured it out. Oh, that was fun. I was hoping to get the what? What do you want? No, just
it
tell
sounded
me.
like he was going full conversation. He said,
I know.
So he was
He's turning things around. He's really gotten over that U.S. women's soccer 3-0 loss to start play a couple of days ago. It's good to see.
Fired up.
We'll see where else this thing goes as we roll on here on a Friday morning. Glad you're a part of the show. We'll get your weekend going in a good way, hopefully. It's the early game on 107.5.
So much excitement. College ball's around the corner. You got the Olympic ceremony right now taking place. There's so many things to be excited about. Kind of the excitement you might get if you find out you're able to lower your mortgage payment each month. And you can do that. You just got to make a 5 or 10-minute phone call to the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. He and Brian Kovar teaming up to help people across the Midlands save money by lowering their mortgage with a lower interest rate. And all it takes is a 5 or 10-minute call to see what you can be approved for, what interest rate you can get, how much money you can save. Give them a phone call today. 803-719-1005 is the way you can do that. Or you can also email the letter J, Crowder, Crowder at firstpalmetto.com. Again, it's a short phone call, and you might save so much money by being able to refinance. You might be able to get some money back depending on what equity you have in your home. There's all kind of things that can come of this that are very good. It's just a quick phone call. So take 5 or 10 minutes today and give the mortgage guru a call. 803-719-1005. He's the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Oh, I'm all by myself. No wonder. I was like, why was there no sound? Yeah, Troy. I mean, you're right. Kansas State. There's only so many spots here. The wheel is spinning, and it's hard to. Somebody's going to get left out, and that's actually why I wonder if, although you left out one, so there's one team who's going to get left out because you only said Iowa State goes to the Big Ten. You said Iowa State goes to the Big Ten. You got to add one more to the Big Ten. So Kansas or Kansas State to the Big Ten. You would assume Kansas, because of basketball, finds their way into the Big Ten. But yeah, there's one team right now, and I think that's why everybody's trying to act very quickly. You feel like Oklahoma State and Kansas and probably Iowa State are the most secure. TCU, Baylor, Texas Tech. I think that's why you saw the 3 Texas schools, if it's true that they reached out to the Pac-12, they went ahead and made the move. Well, then that would leave 2. Yeah, Troy, that would leave 2. Then you got Kansas. It's hard for me to see Kansas being left out. But then again, could Kansas football go the way of Connecticut football or UConn football? I mean, UConn football looked like it was making a move back in the mid 2000s. Randy Edsall was up there. Connecticut was becoming I think Skip Holtz let him in, and then Randy Edsall took over. And obviously, there was the Birmingham Bowl.
We're not coming back after the old timey clip, by the way.
We are or not?
What was that, Patrick?
Said, I don't know if it's bad that this is. We're gonna have commercials after the old timey clip, but
Gotcha. So what happens when you combine the break?
yeah, I could have moved it back, but I thought I did, but I didn't. So
Okay.
Get some coffee.
I would argue that it's better to put it in the middle there. A little bit more content.
content in between, yeah.
Morning, Josh. Excellent advice and wisdom just imparted on the text line. Money is the root of all evil, and all the money in the world can't buy your health.
The call we got off the air was a guy suggesting that if kids can make money in high school, will they commit earlier so that they can start making money off of being
Attach
late
the
to
brand,
school?
basically. Good question.
I said, yeah, maybe, but if the kid's got 5 million followers like this kid does, he'd probably make more money trying to leverage schools against each other.
That can end up being a dirty business, right? Commit to a school and start pimping some of their stuff and then decommit.
Yeah. And he didn't want to ask it on the air, which is the exact thing that I hate.
Oh, we were making fun of, because we heard you a little bit there before you killed your mic.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it sounded like you actually wanted to talk.
Yeah, because it wasn't a bad question. So I said potentially that could happen, but yeah, I don't know. It was a good question. I just wish that he would have asked it on the air instead of wanting to chat with me off the air about it.
They don't think Tim and I are capable of having that conversation. They just want to go straight to the person with knowledge.
It's more personal.
Right, yeah.
Morning, Pops. Anybody else up? Yeah.
Do what? Oh, this is like, what are we, like a Lincoln Logs now? Is that, oh wait, we're climbing on stuff.
That-
They're
That's-
building something.
And Big 12 had a meeting last night that Oklahoma and Texas did not attend, trying to figure out what to do about that. Mhm.
What do you think we're going to end up building here, Bill?
I'm gonna go with a raft. Although, why is this one person dancing on the table? It seems.
Maybe this isn't going to amount to anything.
Mhm.
I gotta admit, if this was at 8 o'clock at night, our time, I would not be watching this.
It will be, again, for the people that are not
I
up.
won't be watching it tonight. I can promise that.
You're up.
Love hearing you guys describe what you're watching with the Olympic opening ceremonies going on right now with the 13-hour time difference. The prime time in Tokyo, a majestic lit up new Olympic stadium with no one in the seats to watch it, unfortunately. And what were you guys saying? They're building something now? Is that what's going on?
I don't know.
There's 10 wooden platforms, and they're just laying down planks over these platforms, pretending to hammer them in. And I thought it looked like they were ultimately building something, and it doesn't look like it. It just looks like they're pretending to construct something while dancing on the tables.
So
I also,
go ahead, Bill.
I was gonna say, I also have now come to the way those are cardboard boxes. They're not planks on the tables. They were being tossed around a little bit too easy there by some dancers. That was
Not
a
real
little bit.
wood.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know. It's a little bit more difficult for me and probably Patrick as well, because I can't hear what is being said. I don't know if I've got closed captioning that I could put on this, but
I do have closed captioning on, and they did just say we're about to see how this all comes full circle.
good. Okay,
Gotcha.
so they're
So-
just as confused.
No, I think they're building up the drama. I'm sure they got a script and know exactly what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, the show, the performance part of the Olympic ceremonies, because I assume I've already seen the pictures of Asia Wilson and Team USA women's basketball dressed for the occasion. You're going to get the normal parade around the Olympic Stadium, but they have no one to wave to, right? Like, this is the hottest thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's strictly for the TV audience. I mean, even when they do it that way, even when they do it initially when there are fans in the stadium. I mean, there's only 50,000 fans in the stadium to begin with, and millions watching worldwide. So, I mean, it's for the people, and also at least the basketball players are used to performing for an empty arena and knowing it's only for a television audience. It's probably a little weird for everybody else, but
Right? You mean with the bubble situation?
yeah,
Here,
it's good for the family to see the family at home to see you walking around in the Olympics.
it's just got to feel really odd. I mean, first of all, if you've ever been in a parade, to me, that's an odd thing to be waving to a bunch of people as you're going by at like 2 miles per hour. And this is kind of the parade of athletes on steroids then, right? And I assume a lot of, I don't know how many actually really have thought about the opening ceremonies, but it is part of the pageantry that has made the Olympics the Olympics, right? And I understand there's more international competition now in sports across our world, and our world has shrunk because of the internet and the whole deal. And the Olympics, to me, is much different in 2021 than it was in 1984 when I remember watching it for the first time in LA. But there's still a lot of pageantry and uniqueness. It's a very special event for a lot of people, but it's just so unfortunate that it's happening how it's happening now. I guess better than nothing. I think that's where you stop, right, and say, oh man, it just seems to have had so many difficulties in so many ways, and now to be playing, participating, competing with no fans around, still in July 2021, where we've kind of come through that period in our country. Got to be awfully odd, I would imagine, for the American athletes, especially. Maybe it's the other side of things for athletes from some other countries that maybe haven't been able to compete like we've done it here. And Bill, this goes back to the SEC conversation, man. This time last year, it was Greg Sankey basically leading the way. It was college football helping to lead the way, kind of following the NFL's lead. It was the NFL being the beacon of strength, saying, "Now we're going to have a season. We're going to figure it out." Then it was the conferences. At first, it was the Big Ten jumping ship, right? We're not playing. Can't do it. Pac-12 as well. Man, did you hear what these doctors, if you knew what these doctors were saying about myocarditis and the whole thing, there is no way you would allow athletes to play. And then you had Greg Sankey kind of laying back. Yeah, hey, we don't have to make a decision quite yet. And one of the first to come out and say, nope, we're going to play. Here's the deal, conference only and the whole thing. And now, fast forward a year later, you have Greg Sankey, and I don't know who else, other conference commissioners, Bill. We clearly think the ACC is involved with Notre Dame, and that's going to happen because when you have the Notre Dame athletic director involved in the college play a football expansion committee and putting out the proposal from 4 to 12 teams, but the top 4 conference champions will get a bye. Well, why would the Notre Dame athletic director sign off on that if he has no plans on joining the conference? Doesn't make any sense. Makes a lot more sense if you do have that in the back of your mind. Maybe you have a year, because when is 4 to 12 expected to become reality, Bill, to go from theory to reality? It's still a few years away, right?
We're 2015.
2025, you mean?
I'm sorry, 2025. Yes, 2025.
Right. Which just so happens to coincide with when the Big 12 media rights run out, and media rights that Oklahoma and Texas have signed away to the Big 12 run out. Their TV deals run out too. And to me, it's easy to connect these dots. You guys were saying that there's some kind of rope involved, or what did you say, thread or something? Some kind of red rope was involved earlier on in these Olympic ceremonies where they're connecting and trying to show that we've gone from isolation to coming back together. And do you make the adjustment, by the way, if you're the choreographer, knowing that the state of emergency was declared and now you can't maybe do the same type of bringing the world together theme, or they're just going through with it? What do you see in there, Patrick?
I think they're just going through with it. They just did a cool thing where they ended their construction theme with like lifting the Olympic rings and bring out all the big rings and lifting them into the shape. It's pretty cool. There are a lot of people on the stage though, right next to each other. So I don't think they did too much.
803-404-6100, by the way, if you'd like to weigh in on where we are right now with a Big 12 meeting last night on video conference and Oklahoma and Texas not being involved. And the line that I take from this is there was a statement released to ESPN by the Big 12. And the last line in this article I'm reading, to me, really resonates and sticks out, and just seems to be a blinking sign for where we are in not just football, but college athletics as a whole. It's time for dramatic change. This is a time of dramatic change within intercollegiate athletics. So really, it's not right now, Bill, but the changes are going to be set in place, it seems like now, for 2025. Are you with me on that, or you're still thinking that you can't have kind of a defunct league with a couple of teams that are clearly just waiting for the clock to tick out? It's just not going to be a tenable situation, or what do you think, Bill, is going to happen from here as this thing seems to really be picking up steam, and there is going to be a resolution, we would think, one way or another here relatively quickly?
Yeah, I think everybody right now sees what's happening. Again, I'm trying to just go through Twitter, or I've tried to go through what I would again label as reputable sports college football writers, Brett McMurphy and Pete Thamel. Boy, Pete Thamel's had a bad week, by the way. Have you seen ESPN making fun of him? If not, we'll get into that a little bit more, because yesterday was kind of an interesting day at SEC Media Day. It went unnoticed, but Eli Trinkowitz, we need to get into that a little bit. But I've been trying to go through and just see if there's any truth or anybody that I would label as reputable, confirming what I saw from some tweets last night, that the remaining Texas schools, Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU, have already reached out to the Pac-12 to gauge interest. And so, Notre Dame has got a spot at the table. They can step right into the ACC. They'll be fine. Texas and Oklahoma are going to have a spot at the table. They'll be perfectly fine. They're going to land somewhere. After that, you got 7 Big 12 schools, and then you've got a handful of right now non-Power 5 schools that want to get into, want to sit at the big table. And Tim, I think right now what you're going to see is everybody scrambling to lock up their spot. We were doing this on the live stream. The Pac-12 has 4. If we do 16, the Pac-12 has 4 openings. The Big 10 has 2. Clemson has 1. Or excuse me, Clemson. It basically is the Clemson Conference at this point. But the ACC has 1. I count Notre Dame already in there. So what direction does everybody go with those? Remember, there will be 8 teams left out of the Big 12. 8 teams. You take Texas and Oklahoma out. 7 spots, 8 teams, plus, say, a Cincinnati, a Central Florida, a Boise State. I think you can throw Memphis, Houston. Those are 5 programs. I don't know if I left anybody else. I mean, Army, Navy. I don't know if you want to throw those in as well. But about 5 schools. So you've got about 8 spots or 7 spots for roughly what I would say is 12 football teams. What happens? Are you able to mesh together, cobble together what will definitely be a lower rate conference? The television deal. I mean, if the Big 12 somehow able to stand firm, if Texas and Oklahoma do leave, are they able to stand firm and pull together 8 other teams from across the country? It could be the All-American country, really, or All-American conference. At that point, I don't think that's what the AAC is. I don't think they're actually the All-American conference. But the point being is, could you pull all those teams together and cobble together a conference none of us are really going to be interested to see? And get your way in.
Knows the answer.
So I think what you're seeing is teams right now trying to secure their spot at the table for 2025, and then when it all gets kind of figured out over the next 30 or 45 days, what happens to the Big 12 then?
Yeah, because the Big 12 saying we need answers now, and we're not getting any like within the next 48 hours, which is why. Otherwise I would say this is going to happen in 2025. Why do you need to know in July 2021? But with the football season coming up, I'm sure you don't want this kind of lingering over college football. That wouldn't be good for anybody.
I would just throw this out there. I wonder, and again, all conspiracy theory, for me, it's fun to do this. I know some people get angry. They don't like dealing in hypotheticals and what ifs. But I think, Tim, doing a show with you for 5 years, I think you're on the same page with me on this. It is fun to kind of go down this path at this point in the year when we're not breaking down a football game from last Saturday or looking ahead to a game for this Saturday. And there's only so much we talk about with SEC Media Day, although, again, maybe the next hour I want to get into Eli Drinkwitz a little bit because that guy was entertaining yesterday. But I wonder, hypothetically, if Oklahoma would reach out to the ACC or the Oklahoma, and say, hey, we're going to the SEC. Would you as the ACC mind taking Oklahoma State? Do Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have to be in the same conference, or do they just have to play? Because I think if you go down the list, you look at the 8 teams remaining in the Big 12. Who do you think? Yeah, and Troy, by the way, says BYU. That's a good one. Throw BYU into that group that's also fighting to get in. But who of that group in the Big 12 remaining becomes the most attractive for someone to add to their conference? Is it Oklahoma State? Is it West Virginia?
I think Oklahoma State and Kansas and West Virginia are the only ones that are attractive at all.
Kansas better be
are any of the secondary Kansas just for basketball? I mean, if the ACC wanted to be the super conference of basketball, I guess the Big Ten is better at basketball now, but yeah, they're at least a highly coveted basketball program. But does anybody want Baylor or Texas Tech or TCU? They're all the secondary Texas programs. They're all little brother in that state. Who would actually want them? The Big Ten naturally would probably take Iowa State just because they already have Iowa and it's their region. But does anybody really want Iowa State? They have a decent football. Their football program is probably better than South Carolina's right now. But
let me ask this. Let me just throw it again. I like doing this. I like doing this. Just thinking about the realignment. But if you're the Pac-12, is BYU and Boise State more attractive than TCU and Baylor?
Can't quite hear you with these things.
I would think so. I mean, Boise State, yes. I think Boise State definitely. And yeah, I mean, BYU, then you have, yeah, I think so. Make it all three. Make it all three of the Texas schools, TCU, Texas Tech, and Baylor versus Boise State, BYU, and Colorado State.
I'd probably throw San Diego State.
You were talking
in there,
about
Colorado State. San Diego State would be.
Patrick, when you're talking about it would be natural for Iowa State to go to the Big Ten, is that how conferences are looking at this thing? When's it happen?
No. Nothing's not. And again, I'm not into the geographics of this, but when the Southeastern Conference is expanded into College Station, Texas, and Columbia, Missouri, the natural fits aren't there anymore, which is fine. I have no problem with it. That doesn't mean I'd be thrilled with South Carolina being in the Pac-12. That doesn't really work well for me, but nonetheless, like, look, I went to College Station 2 years ago. If Texas and Oklahoma join the conference, I will go there. I will make a trip out there. Will I go every time they play? Probably not. I don't go to Georgia every time South Carolina plays at Georgia, and that's 2.5 hours away. But yeah, I'll go out of my way one time to make a trip. I'll plan it a year in advance. I'll save up the money, get the airline ticket, book a great hotel room, figure out all the places. Probably make a few days out of it because Austin, Texas is supposed to be an incredible place. I have known nothing about Norman, Oklahoma. But yeah, for the college football fan. Now the other question to this, big picture, not South Carolina or Clemson necessarily related, but big picture, is this best? Is this something the college football fan is going to enjoy? I think the answer is yes, right?
Of course.
I think it's not even close. I think we're seeing what we would have dreamt up, right? These non-conference matches that already been signed decades down the line. The Gamecocks with Miami and Virginia Tech, good examples. But the fact that you will have bigger conferences, I think, will eliminate a lot more of these small school games. And you have, if you go from 4 to 12, you have a lot more leeway. If you lose games in the middle of the regular season, at some point in the regular season, you lose 2-3 games, who knows where it's going to lead, right? But you can still make the playoff because it's expanded to 12. And this is what we've always asked for, right? As college football fans. Like, it's nice that FCS schools or smaller in-state schools get to come to the larger schools and make some money. It's good for them and their facilities and the athletic department, bottom line, and the whole thing. And those bigger schools typically get to add some wins to their ledger, but no one is for more of that, right? Except for those schools that need the money. From a college football fan standpoint, we were all for the better matchups. And it seems like, to me, that's where this is going. And that's what I'm guessing these power brokers who have put these deals together are going to sell. We're upping the competition level. Ultimately, it's best for the fan. Now, in reality, when you add Oklahoma and Texas to your Southeastern Conference, if you're ever planning on making those trips, right? Not necessarily better for you as a fan. Like someone just hit us up, I think it was Ted. He said he'd rather see Florida State and NC State added to the Southeastern Conference. Or Florida State and Virginia Tech, I think he said. Then SEC would have 13 of 15 national champions in college football since Vince Young and Texas did it. Also, you'd have the opportunity to make much shorter road trips there. But that's not what this is about. This is about bottom line, dollar figures, and then the future of college athletics and college football driving that train for sure. And it seems like Oklahoma and Texas are headed right into the SEC, and then dominoes will fall from there. We'll continue to break it down for you, get into more SEC Media Day stuff from the final day of SEC Media Days, like you mentioned with Eli Drinkwitz, making a few headlines there, Bill.
That guy yesterday, I want to get into him. Did anybody catch basically about the time we went off air and some stuff he said about Shane Beamer? Because I'm trying to figure out if he and Shane Beamer are friends or if that's a rivalry now. Because his stuff on air on the SEC network, I was like, oh, maybe they're friends, or maybe he really doesn't like Beamer.
What a tease. 803-404-6100. If you'd like to weigh in, you can call or text here. It's the early game on 107.5.
Clear.
No. The beach vacation about to wrap up here. 18 people in a house is just bound. We've relatively maintained the mess, I think, at the house here. I don't know if we'll need zero res. They could certainly help, though. I do know that. Zero res carpet and air duct cleaning has been out to my house and cleaned my carpets, an area rug for me, tile in both the kitchen and bathroom, and done a great job. And I need it especially these days with a 6 and 8 year old boy as well as the 1+ year old, and that 1+ year old especially because he's still walking around and either begging for food, just starting yelling when he sees food. One of his first words has been cookie. And then picking stuff up off the floor and inevitably putting it in his mouth or certainly near the mouth before we can go grab it, giving us a heart attack. Zero res, no harsh chemicals involved in their patented powered water cleaning system, especially important to me these days. Also, the fact that you don't have any leftover soapy residue. That's why my carpets have stayed cleaner longer. Yours can as well. And they've got a great deal for you right now. 3 rooms with carpet clean for zero res, only $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. Go book your appointment online right now. ZeroResColumbia.com. Get your home feeling and looking its best right in the middle of the summer. Give them a call at 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. You just say something, Bill? I think I might have missed it.
No, I was standing up, straight down. Oh, man. Did either of y'all see? Did y'all listen to Eli Drinking yesterday? At least on the podium.
I saw just something talking about, what did I hear him talk? Oh, being new money. You hear that one? He said, I'm what you call new money. These other coaches around here, they give their money away. My wife would kill me. I like that. And it was like he was doing it like he was just chewing gum, shooting the breeze.
I'll get into this because there were some things about him yesterday that I'll get into a little bit.
What he said, I realize now I got to kind of watch what I say a little bit because when I say something stupid, it comes back to bite me, and I've already done that a few times, but live and learn. Yeah.
Oh, listen, I'll save it for the show because I'll bring this up because he was entertaining yesterday. And I didn't expect that. I'd never heard him talk. I'd never really paid attention. The only things I'd ever heard were just kind of the things he said about South Carolina. He seems to have an axe to grind with South Carolina.
Love the drama.
I don't really know what exactly the deal is. I do think if he wins, if he can be successful there, I think he will be the next big time coach in college football.
Yep.
2 athletes from Andorra. Was it 4 years ago or was that 8? When was that when that one athlete from the random island country came out and was like barely dressed? Do y'all remember that?
It was the last Olympics. I would think it was 4 years ago. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I would guess 4 years ago. The small island country, and someone came out dressed. Yeah, they kind of stole the ceremonies or the outfits that they always do. I feel like it's a fashion show. Steroids, fashion show, and like a dance recital. So what's going on now? Are they still doing the show?
No, everybody's coming out. Here comes Israel.
Gotcha. Are they going alphabetical order?
No.
No? What order do they go in? Any idea?
I don't know. Looking ahead, it looks like alphabetical order, but they did just send Yemen before Israel.
Well, that's the thing too, right? I think they do it in their own
In the language that they
native
spell it.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense then. So what does Yemen start with?
Yeah, me. Patrick, have you seen? You watch the documentary Icarus? Right.
Yeah.
How does it change how you look at the Olympics at all?
A little bit. I don't know. I guess I think I'm relatively skeptical to begin with.
I hear you.
Definitely stinks. It's not pure anymore.
Yeah, my parents recently saw it and they said it ruined the Olympics for them.
The Italians are out in force.
No, I'm sorry. It was the Togan flag bearer in Rio in 2014. Tongan, Tongan, Tongan.
All right.
He was an oil. He didn't wear a shirt. Had kind of one of
As
the
Bill
dress
just looked
and
up,
was
Tongan
completely
flag
oiled.
bearer from years past, Olympics past, as the opening ceremonies continue, and now have entered the country parade portion of the ceremonies. I wanted to tell you 5 weeks from today, we probably won't have any kind of ceremony quite like that. I think the annual 175 game fall golf tournament now, not quite as large a ceremony pre-round over at Charwood than you get at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics that now happen in 2021. But we're going to tee it up on Friday, August 27th. Would love for you to be a part. Just call Charwood at 803-755-2000. Go ahead and register for that. This one's going to be good stuff. We got breakfast and lunch included. Going to be having the Heckle Hole again to benefit Camp Cole out there. We'll play a close to the pin kind of contest and try to raise some money for a great cause in Camp Cole. And then the winning team going to win a trip to Kiowa. And we're going to have a raffle for a pair of tickets to the Gamecock football home opener. That will be 8 days away at that point. So August 27th. Mark that on your calendar. Get out to Charwood with us. We'll tee it up and have a great time. Hope to see you there. 803-404-6100 is the number if you'd like to weigh in on our show right now. Brad doing just that. He says, if I'm South Carolina, why do I care about keeping other SEC teams in conference rivalries? It seems like the Gamecocks always adjusting its schedule to accommodate long-standing SEC rivalries they were never part of in the first place. Had another texter, Bill, earlier mentioned, can the SEC survive Texas and Alabama sitting, I guess, coexist is exactly how you put it. And Alabama and Texas coexist as the y'all need us more than you need God schools in the same conference. Do you think that's a consideration at all from Greg Sankey's standpoint and the SEC's, what seems at this point, likely expansion to include both of those massively well thought of programs and well funded programs and very complicated programs with Alabama and Texas I'm talking about?
I think for Texas, it would be an eye-opening experience to learn that SEC headquarters is in Birmingham, Alabama, not in Texas. And that, yes, Alabama has a lot to say of what goes on in this conference, and that this conference got along just fine for a long time without Texas. Could they coexist? I think so. I think they'd make it work. But trust me, those Alabama-Texas games could be very entertaining.
Poll question results from Pearson Fowler on our station yesterday. 65% of you saying, no, you don't want Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC. That has spawned my spinoff question today at Tim Hill 1075, where you can go and vote right now. 80% of you saying you wouldn't want Clemson to join the SEC. Continue to discuss and get into more of an SEC Media Day recap now that it has ended in a monumental week for sure. It's the early game here on 1075 again.
Clear.
That's another part of the story, right?
This is JL with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by the Samsung Galaxy. The internet has a lot to say about Samsung Galaxy. Find out at Samsung.com/user. The NFL has really put their foot down when it comes down to players being vaccinated. They're not forcing it, but they are highly encouraging it. If non-vaccinated players need to avoid the cancellation, the team forfeits the game if receives a loss. If the team comes down to
It was just a Zoom call. They basically had the meeting to discuss how to handle what's the news that popped out.
Basically, they had no comment.
Right.
Are you doing the show with Augie?
Yeah, my dad's over here. We're having the alternate show.
I think he needs to call in. That could be entertaining.
I needs to get up earlier and hear the first hour.
Oh, he's just waking up on. Is the griddle grill going to be in use again this morning?
Steaks were on last night. Only had the turkey bacon going yesterday with the eggs and what else? Some sausage.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we have the griddle set to go again. I think they got some stuff in the store yesterday.
Yeah, I would imagine the store trips for the group that y'all have are massive.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like when somebody says I'm going to the store, everybody runs in different directions to make sure they don't get included on the trip.
Well, there have been several Costco runs. Yesterday, it was a Costco and grocery store run simultaneously, I think.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one where I'd be like, if somebody said we're going to the grocery store, I'd be like, don't worry, I got all 8 kids and I'm taking them to the beach. It's cool. You go.
Well, we've gotten smart, and I think just basically started a log of what's been spent so we can break it down and make sure everybody gets compensated accordingly.
Gotcha.
But we haven't gotten to the financial settling point of the trip yet. We're trying to wait until the end.
That's wise.
See how that goes. I'm going to run down and say hi to a very confused 1-year-old who keeps hearing my voice but doesn't understand why he can't hang out with me.
Oh boy. I gotta admit, turkey bacon. I think I did turkey bacon a couple times, but that's not a health trend I'm ready to completely buy into.
I think I like turkey sausage better than turkey bacon.
Yeah, I get on board with that. What about turkey dog? Is that in the same? I guess that's in the same family as turkey dogs.
I don't know, but I mean they have turkey like breakfast sausage.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I've had that before. Yeah, I did the turkey bacon for a little while, but I just assume stick with regular bacon. We're at 39. A couple extra minutes on the old elliptical each week will offset that bacon if I can do it correctly.
I've just been doing frozen sausage because it's very easy to make.
They've got real good packs of it at Old Timey Meat Market.
Yeah.
And honestly, at Old Timey Meat Market, you go get it's a big old pack of them, and you can get the Southern biscuits that you just pop in the oven for like 15, 18 minutes. And they make delicious sausage biscuits.
What's the company I do? It might be Tennessee Pride. No, it's not Tennessee Pride. Oh yeah, Swaggerty's. 30 patties in a box, frozen, and I can just pop 2 of them out.
Yeah,
and then make eggs, and that's it.
Like I told you, I've been doing avocado in the mornings, avocado, eggs, and a little wrap. Sometimes throw a little turkey in there, maybe throw a little bacon in there.
Yeah.
I feel healthier. I don't know if I am healthier. Yeah, I'm with you, Hope. Turkey bacon, I think, like I said, I gave it a shot. We gave it the effort, but it's kind of like the black
I'd rather have
coffee.
turkey bacon than nothing.
Huh?
I still think it tastes good. It's just nowhere near even close to how good regular bacon is, and you can't get it crispy.
Yeah, no, it's it's kind of like black coffee. Like I've done black coffee, I can drink it, and I might need to go back to it for one little health kick real quick, but I've been pretty healthy lately. Did eat pasta last night. I've got to cut down on pasta.
I did cauliflower orzo.
How
Or
was
not
that?
orzo, cauliflower gnocchi.
How was that?
Very good. Gnocchi's really easy, just cook in the skillet. But yeah, they have cauliflower and and spinach. Cauliflower and spinach gnocchi.
Was that pre-made? And then you just popped it in like a.
Yeah. Yeah, it just like comes in a frozen bag. Just pop it right in the skillet. Brown it.
I probably need to go to the store today. It's something like I said that I was talking about going down to Charleston, but I don't know if I want to do that or not. Everything, like I said, everything's so expensive to travel right now, and there's just no point in traveling.
Yeah.
Taco Bell's getting weird with their commercials. Are you seeing? I wonder if you're watching the same thing I am, where it's got a
Yeah.
country on the little, and then a Taco Bell commercial.
Is Mike Kotsar an Olympian? I saw Stoney just walking there. I don't know if they're in if they even made the tournament.
I don't think he is. I feel like we would have heard about that. Like that definitely would have been publicized.
I know he played for the Estonia 3-on-3 team. I don't know if their 3-on-3 basketball team made the Olympics.
Oh, he played for the 3-on-3 team?
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I've seen him playing for Estonia in the 3-on-3 tournament. Ethiopia, 110 million people. It's a large country. I've never heard of Eritrea.
Yeah, neither have I. 6.1 million people, though. And apparently 14 athletes.
What was the name of that country?
Eritrea? Eritrea? Eritrea?
No clue.
The Red Sea coast. Borders Djibouti. I might be pronouncing that way wrong.
That's where the closed captioning is not helping you, huh?
The first video result is, where is Eritrea, in parentheses, Italy in Africa? I don't know what that means. Coastline? Long coastline? Looks like they have a very long coastline. Eritrea.
We back? It sounds like we're back.
Yeah.
In the past, you could at least say, hey, man, I couldn't quite get there to you guys' meeting. Sorry, I know. But you didn't give us any notice. We had other things planned, the whole deal. And now you can't do that in 2021, can you? When it's a Zoom call? Big 12 last night invited all 10 members to the Zoom call. Hey, guys, I think we need to get together. We need to get a handle on the latest news. Oklahoma and Texas.
Who's on that call?
Nothing. Bueller. I'm guessing ADs and presidents.
They should have sent Oklahoma should have sent Spencer Rattler or something like that, or just sent just a random undergrad on their behalf.
Lincoln Riley and Steve Sarkisian are just making fun of everybody. They're those guys in the meeting, just rolling their eyes, throwing in some snide comments every now and again.
Yeah, or just send the equipment manager or secretary or something. Send somebody, but no one that actually knows anything.
Just how about the mascots?
No, I think you get one of the video assistants, the interim video assistants that have to break down film for Riley and Sarkisian. Just be like, he pops up, hey, who are you? Steve, video assistant, or Coach Sarkisian.
I'd just put a camera on Bevo.
Right? What if Oklahoma just cuts together a video that they run on a loop the entire time with their players just giving the horns down?
Yeah.
But it didn't happen last night. They were absent, Oklahoma and Texas, and the other 8 schools say they need answers, and they need them quickly, and they don't have any right now. And the Big 12 also putting out a statement to ESPN saying that now is the time for massive change, basically, in college athletics. And to me, reading the tea leaves in this thing all week long. Actually, it's gone more than a week, right? You mentioned, Bill, it was about this time last week where Mark Emmert comes out, the NCAA president, kind of puts his hands up and says, yeah, we might want to look at reorganizing this thing. Football and field hockey are different. Thank you, president of the NCAA, who just made $2.9 million for letting all of us know those things are different. They've always been different. What has changed is clearly the NCAA doesn't have any authority over big-time conferences when it comes to football. Just rewind a year from where we sit today, when the NCAA said, yep, we're not going to play football. And the FBS said, yes, we are. We're going to leave it up to the conferences. And that's when Greg Sankey, in my opinion, Bill, helped raise his profile. I mean, you're already, by default, the most powerful man in college sports when you're the SEC commissioner. And you take over when Greg Sankey did with the SEC on top. But the way that he helped to navigate through all the COVID issues last year and to, by and large, keep the football season in place, I think helped raise his profile. I don't know if we're sitting here today talking about Oklahoma and Texas seemingly likely to join the conference and expand to 16 teams if it had been handled, let's say, like the Big Ten handled it. And Kevin Warren kind of botching the whole thing, saying, no, we're not going to play. And we're not even going to talk about the possibility of playing. And then a few days later, yeah, we're actually going to play. Never mind, changed my mind. But where we've come to college sports just this week, man. I mean, typically we'd be talking about all SEC media days and doing some relatively standard previews of teams and where they sit and returning starters and on the field stuff like that. And this week, it just has not been that because of the bombshell with Texas and Oklahoma exploring the opportunity to join the SEC and then what would happen from there. So again, the likelihood of this happening, Bill, I went with 80% yesterday. You kind of agreed. And as we sit here today, after a Big 12 meeting last night, that percentage for me has only gone up to about 90 at this point. The question now becomes, all right, what's next? To me, that's the question. Big 12's already met and tried to figure out how to get a handle on this and where to go. Bill, what do you think happens next from here as it pertains to Oklahoma and Texas specifically?
I think Texas is gone. I think Texas is out the door. I think it's past the point of no return with them. Oklahoma, we'll see on them. I think that one's a little bit more complicated, but I feel like Texas is definitely out the door at this point. Now, the question is it in the SEC? Is it in the ACC? Is it in the Big 12, or excuse me, the Big 10? I mean, I can see Texas. You know, if this turns into a Texas by itself case, because right now, as far as we know, Texas and Oklahoma, based on what you just pointed out about last night's conference call, appear to be aligned here. It appears to be a package deal. You get Texas, you get Oklahoma. We'll see if it stays that way. I still think that Texas is more out there than Oklahoma. It's kind of like Oklahoma's like, yeah, we're right behind you, buddy, but you go first. You go through the doorway first, and we'll just follow you on out. At that
How
point,
do you think they became aligned? Like, why did Texas and Oklahoma gang up rather than Oklahoma and Oklahoma State saying, like, hey, why don't we get out of here together?
I don't think that's what happened, Patrick. I don't think they ganged up at all. I think that's Greg Sankey plucking both of those and saying, why would I want Oklahoma State when I can get Oklahoma and Texas?
Unsolicited?
I don't know if it's unsolicited or not, but I mean, everyone knows the timelines on these things, right? And to me, this is all about, again, in big time college athletics, TV is what drives the money, right? So this is all about knowing that the contracts are up in 2025 and being prepared for that.
Look, again, we're
I don't think it's
ballpark
those
of
two. Oh yeah, it's complete speculation.
Well, but here's another. Like, it has been entertaining to read the theories on this, and there is it wouldn't have surprised me if Texas said we're going to make the move, we're out, and Texas goes to the SEC and says, hey, we'd be interested in coming, and the SEC says, all right, we'll take you, but you got to bring Oklahoma too. You know, we got to if we can't go to 15, we got to go to 16. Who else is available? Well, we can't go get Notre Dame. Probably wouldn't want them anyway, but we can't go get Notre Dame. They're going to the ACC. There's a contract that if Notre Dame is to join a conference, they have to go to the ACC. So the SEC looks and says, all right, Texas, you're going to come. I suggest you call up your good buddy Oklahoma and tell them here's the plan. It wouldn't surprise me if that's how it went down. It feels like Texas wants out, that Texas is looking at the revenue that Alabama's getting, that Ohio State's getting, that Georgia's getting, that Michigan's getting, especially the Big Ten and the SEC, those two, the revenue that comes in, and Texas says, well, wait a minute, how are we're the one producing all the revenue for the other teams here. You know, they're not making much on the Longhorn Network. As Heath was pointing out yesterday on his show, that's basically been a failure. That network has basically been a failure. And so I can see a scenario where Texas is looking around and seeing the payouts, even though Texas is a very rich school. That, you know, a bunch of you have weighed in on the live stream and on the text line this morning. You pointed out greed. I can see where Texas is the one that said there's more money to be had out there. And look, is it Texas or Georgia that's the most underachieving football program in the country?
Right. I think that's where I think it's much more about that than money, Bill, because the power brokers at Texas have all the money they want. When I just read an article last week, I believe it was, might have been this week earlier, about recruiting in the state of Texas, and the University of Texas doesn't come off great in that article, especially the old Tom Herman staff. I think thought of as arrogant and just never hit with high school coaches around the state. And a large part of that article is Jimbo Fisher and the elevation of Texas A&M and doing it with the SEC pitch. I can't ignore the timing of this thing. To me, I think it's about Texas people, Texas money people looking around and saying, we got to do something here. What can we do to get back on top in college football? And I think one of those things, you join the best conference in the country, where your in-state rival doesn't have that recruiting advantage on you anymore. And you get a guy and pluck him right from Nick Saban's staff who's calling the plays for him. That helps as well. I think that has a much more to do with it than Texas sitting around and saying, how can we make more money? Because they're making plenty of money. Again, $38 million is what the Big 12 paid out last year, and now is saying that anybody who leaves has to give 18 months notice and pay out that fee, and basically will have to pay it out for 2 years. So $76 million is what looks like to be the price tag for Oklahoma and Texas to leave the Big 12. When I see that, I think, well, that doesn't seem very financially smart right now, especially coming off a COVID economy where all athletic departments lost a bunch of money. To me, it's obviously a big part of it, money. But you got ESPN, I think, working plenty of deals. And if you get part of the new Disney contract with the SEC, the money's going to flood in, and Texas and Oklahoma aren't going to have problems generating money.
What did you mean, Bill, when you said the Longhorn Network is a failure? Like, it's not making a lot of money for Texas? Because I don't even understand what they expected. Like, they expected to compete with the SEC network? That would be ludicrous.
Yeah, I think they thought that it would be picked up almost, if I've read and understood correctly, I think they thought it would be picked up by many more carriers. It's kind of like right now, I think you've mentioned.
Yeah, I've never been able to watch it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think how many people out there, probably more people can weigh in. Back during South Carolina going to Texas to play that 3-game series was the only time we've ever been able to watch or were ever interested in watching it.
Right.
And I think everybody realized, we can't watch it. Like there's almost no way to subscribe to it. A lot of places, like, I use YouTube television. I don't think it's a standalone product that you can add. They're not interested in picking it up. And so, yeah, it's not something that's been able to go nationwide.
So again, the question to me is what happens from here? And Bill, I know you said you think Texas is out the door, but what happens next? Does Texas come out and say, we're going to be joining the SEC in 2025? Does Oklahoma come out? To me, I think this is going to be from the other way around, that the SEC will come out and say, here's what's going to happen. We're going to welcome these two schools. Trey says, is there anything the Big 12 can do to incentivize Texas or Oklahoma to stay? And is there a situation where only one comes? Well, this is where it's an impossible situation for the Big 12 right now, right? These other 8 schools, remember, there are only 10 schools in the Big 12, which makes no sense, obviously, but another big part of their problem. You can't now say, you can't let Texas and Oklahoma hold your conference hostage, right? I mean, all the rest of the schools would be completely bitter about that moving forward. They're bitter already, I think. I think they just need to know, all right, are you going forward with this? And then they need to try to survive, I'm guessing, by plucking other schools, which it doesn't seem likely. To me, it seems inevitable that the Big 12 is done here as soon as Texas or Oklahoma are gone. And I guess there could be a situation where only one comes and then the SEC would go a different direction, right? You go to Central Florida, or I don't know, maybe why wouldn't you try to recruit Southern Cal at this point, or UCLA? You're going to Texas, why not keep going? And if you're going after the biggest name brands in college sports, why wouldn't you swing for the fence like that? It wouldn't shock me. Nothing's off the table, I feel like, at this point in college sports, Bill.
Well, and again, some of this is not necessarily involved. I think that this is the other part where the other 8 schools in the Big 12 want answers, is because television deals for the future are being lined up now. We're talking about the media grant of rights through 2025. It's not necessarily about that. This is about the future in television rights. And it appears Fox has already passed on early negotiations with the Big 12. Well, if Texas and Oklahoma are in limbo, let's be honest, how many networks now want to go and negotiate with the Big, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, but the Big 12, if you're not going to have Texas and Oklahoma? That's one reason they need answers. Now,
and that's why I'm wondering what the next steps are here in the immediate future for both the Big 12, the SEC, Texas, Oklahoma, Notre Dame. You can, follow the list of dominoes. What happens next? And then what's the timeline on this thing? Because you're right, that has a big part of it. And that's why I think the Big 12 came out last night, said we need answers and we need them quickly, and we're not getting it. A mess.
And do you think that Oklahoma State is on the phone right now with other conferences trying to just get out because they realize, hey, we're the only one that has any value at this point? Like, there's no honor amongst thieves. So they're just like, well, let's get out. Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. They can see the writing on the wall. Let's bail and see what we can do.
Yeah, you got it. Right now, you have to be looking around. I think, and that's why, again, I've spent most of the morning scanning Twitter, scrolling Twitter to see, again, if there's substance behind this a few of these random tweets that the other 3 Texas schools have reached out to the Pac-12. Right now, you better be working. Plan A is to keep this thing together. And then, quite frankly, if you're the Big 12, to find a way to expand. Because I feel like the SEC is looking. I feel like Greg Sankey has set his sights on 16 teams and super conferences. And quite frankly, behind them, the ACC is in the next best position because they've already got Notre Dame lined up. Again, Notre Dame is contractually obligated to join the ACC for the next 15 years. If they join if Notre Dame joins the conference, they can stay independent. Doesn't seem smart, but they can stay independent and they'll be okay. Or they have to join the ACC. So it feels like the ACC is in the most stable position behind the SEC. SEC, you're right, Tim. If Sankey misses on Texas and Oklahoma, I don't think he would go bid on Southern Cal and say Oregon. But what's to stop him, right? What is really to stop him? More likely, maybe Greg Sankey. is a very smart man. I've sat down with him. I've talked with him. I've listened to Jay and Heath interview him. The man also, I think, is realizing he's in control of college football. When Jim Delaney left the Big Ten, Kevin Warren doesn't seem to – last year's fiasco with the Big Ten and trying to play football, I think showed that Kevin Warren has got a long way to go to be a voice in college football. Jim Delaney was that – Jim Delaney was someone who could stand up to whoever the SEC commissioner was and kind of battle back, right? Take some shots at the SEC. Kevin Warren's not that guy. And so Greg Sankey right now, I mean, if you want to really go, if everybody wants to grab tinfoil real quick and create a hat, I could see a scenario here where Greg Sankey is able to kind of orchestrate this whole thing, be the puppet master, and then when you've got the four conferences with 16 teams, next thing we know, Greg Sankey is the commissioner of the entire thing, and you got a new commissioner for the SEC.
Scott says Greg Sankey's the de facto president of all college sports or commissioner of all college sports. And I don't disagree. And I think he wants to keep it that way. And that's one of the reasons that we're sitting here talking today about a complete shift or an expanded SEC that includes Oklahoma and Texas. We'll continue the discussion. Bill, someone hit us up and said, what was that SEC coach stuff you're talking about? Talking some noise about Shane Beamer? Got to get those details coming up about Missouri coach Eli Drinkwitz. Comments on the last day of SEC Media Days. We'll do that when we come back. It's the early game here on 175 The Game.
Clear.
Got to tell you guys, rocking chairs are nice on a porch when you're at the beach, especially when you have 15 other people in the family and you need to have a quiet spot to do a sports talk radio show in the morning, but they are not made for sitting for 3 hours. You know what is made for sitting for 3 hours? A recliner, especially a leather recliner. Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding has more than 50 of them right now in stock in their store out near the airport. You can walk right in. You can try all 50 if you want. The Leather Gallery, impressive, man. And Motion Furniture, that's what it's called, by the way. I didn't know that recliners or reclining sofas, love seats, the whole thing, they're called Motion Furniture. It makes sense, though, right? They move. That's what Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding really harps on and makes their specialty. Daniel and June Clark have owned and operated Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding right here in the Midlands for 25 years, and they will treat you like you're part of the family. As soon as you walk in, I felt that when I walked in Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding a couple of weeks ago, that it's not a big box store where you're just another number and you're just looking for the best price you can get, and then you have to haggle about how many pieces are involved with the set and the whole deal. No, they're going to treat you like family. You like what you see? Guess what? It can be yours, and it can be delivered free as long as you're within 20 miles of the store very soon. And you're going to get a great deal, too, for Daniels. They're all about the 3 Bs: best furniture, best service, and best price, and best selection in town on those recliners. Go check out that Leather Gallery and find yours where you can sit in for hours, and it'll be a little bit more comfortable than this rocking chair I'm sitting in right now. 3911 Edmond Highway in West Columbia, at the back of the airport, where you can find Daniel's Fine Furniture. Remember, when it's time to save, it's time for Daniel's Fine Furniture and Bedding.
So we're going to talk a little Drinkwitz here, and then we got Kerry Tharp.
Morning, Jason.
Is that right?
All right. Good to see that you had the chance to crank it on. Thank you, Trey. Trey is clearly in the Olympic mindset with the score rating there. Alan, glad to hear this is the second family. Most aggressive mindset, would we say, about Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC, I think, from Alan on the phones the other day.
true. It's true.
That was just yesterday. And so, what did this mean, RL, back in the day?
I think he's talking about when South Carolina and Clemson back in the 70s are both agreed to leave the ACC. South Carolina left and Clemson backed out in the last minute.
Oh, so why was that going to be a package deal for the South Carolina teams?
I mean, I asked Tommy Moody.
Fair enough. Just doesn't seem likely to me that the Gamecocks and Clemson team up on something like that.
I think there was a lot of reasons back in the day, but I've never.
And
You hear me? We got Kerry Tharp at 8:45.
oh yeah, can you reach out, see what he thinks?
You want me to just call him and see if he wants to come on?
Yeah, tell him totally my fault for yesterday not having him on. Yeah, those handshake deals, man. College sports, good luck with that.
Gamecock land.
No, haven't heard from him either. Patrick, you haven't gotten a call from Gamecock Larry off the air, have you? Yeah.
Nope.
Who else? Oh, I met one of my dad's buddies who lives in Columbia and listens to the station, was making Gamecock Larry references on the golf course the other day.
Oh boy.
Love it. Now my West Virginia buddy texted me on the private text line here. Every time this happens, it irks the ever-living hell out of me that non-football schools like Rutgers, Wake, Duke, Vandy, Washington State, Oregon State are all safe, and big followings like BYU, West Virginia, Oklahoma State now in trouble. Yeah, tough to be a West Virginia fan for sure.
Going to ACC. The ACC ain't going to stop.
No, we're thinking that Notre Dame will be right in there.
And West Virginia.
That was one of the theories for sure.
Yeah, Drinkowitz really. I didn't miss the comment about Dan Mullen yesterday, saying.
All right, I want to hear this breakdown from Bill.
Huh?
I want to hear this breakdown.
I texted Kerry, so if he responds, I'll just tell you in the private chat.
Okay,
We can
sounds good.
break earlier.
I'm going to start waving your arms furiously at 8:40, so we break.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely want to hit it at 8:41.
Those 6 schools go to the Big Ten. It's 16 teams.
They already have 14.
I thought they only had 10.
No, they have 12. Sorry. So it's the Big 12 that has 10, and the Big 10 that has 12. Of course.
Well, don't take 4. Don't take 2. ACC takes 2 out. 2 out. They'll go to the last 12.
I gotta remember which lottery is tonight. I think I'm gonna try and play lottery.
Tonight? Friday's Mega Millions, I think.
Wanted to remind you of two things real quickly. 5 weeks from today, I believe it is August 27th, not the Friday immediately before the season opener, but 8 days before the season opener for Gamecock football, when we're going to be celebrating the college football kind of as we know it this year out at Charwood Golf Course for our annual fall golf tournament, 107.5 The Game, celebrating our anniversary. I think we're up to 14 years now. We've been on the air and celebrating with you at Charwood, 10 o'clock that day, August 27th. Again, mark that down on your calendar. Love to have you out there for the Captain's Choice Golf Tournament benefiting Camp Cole. Going to have breakfast and lunch for you. Panera Breakfast, Little Pigs hooking us up with some barbecue lunch, giving away a trip to Kiowa for the winning team, a raffle for a pair of tickets to the Gamecock home opener, all on deck. Call Charwood to register right now at 803-755-2000. And the number you can text right now to try to go see the Foo Fighters get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You'll get airfare, couple of nights of a hotel as well over to Cleveland. 64636. That's the number, and that number stays the same. We give you several chances to win this national contest throughout the day. 64636. Just text the national keyword fighters right now to 64636 for that chance to win to see the Foo Fighters inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame up in Cleveland. So this sets up, Bill, I want to hear what went down in your mind anyway, or some of the comments that stuck out to you from Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz yesterday, that especially as it pertains to Shane Beamer and company, and then some other coaches, because this is what SEC Media Days is about to me. Hey, did you hear what so-and-so said about so-and-so? And this usually keeps us going at this time of year from a football standpoint. This week has been massively different with this Oklahoma-Texas stuff.
So first, let's start with this. Eli Drinkwitz, day 4 of SEC Media Day is usually a little tough. Everybody's normally worn out. Even if you're just watching on television, you've probably seen about enough. And I didn't think Eli Drinkwitz would be the most entertaining person in the world. But I got to admit, I've never really heard him. Obviously, no SEC Media Day last year. I don't go out of my way to catch Missouri press conferences. Eli Drinkwitz is really the next Steve Spurrier. And I say that for two different reasons. Yesterday, he admitted his admiration for Steve Spurrier. Said that's where he wears the visor. That's why he wears a visor. Says he grew up kind of watching him coach and emulating him. I believe he had an intramural team in college that was called the Spurrier Boys that he said he played on, but he also coached and drew up the ball plays. The guy really kind of fancies himself as a Steve Spurrier. And I was listening to him yesterday, and I'll get to this. He took shots or he made comments about a lot of people yesterday. Now, the ones he made about Beamer, so we're watching, and as we went off air, I think Eli Drinkwitz came on the SEC network with Peter Burns and Chris Doering at about 9:30 yesterday morning before going to the podium. And they threw up the little spot there, the little tweet that Peter Burns had put out on, I think, Sunday night or sometime prior to the start of SEC Media Day about the 5 coaches he was most interested to hear from and that he would learn about stuff this week. Drinkwitz was number 1. And, of course, if you go back to Monday, Shane Beamer kind of brought up not being on the list and how he was a little hurt. They were joking back and forth. So that got brought up yesterday, and Drinkwitz starts kind of making a comment about Beamer and being left off the list. And then kind of went on a rant. And he was like, yeah, and I'd like to thank Shane Beamer out here telling us all about his offensive game plan, being very specific. He's going to throw to the tight end. So we now know about that. We'll definitely be double covering the tight end when they come to Missouri this year. And then just if Beamer needs a reminder, I presented the Mayor's Cup trophy to our president the other day at the school. And if he wants that back, they can come out here and try and get it in November. And it was, you'd have to listen to him to get, again, if you go back, and that was on the SEC network that he said that. And it was just, I don't know what the relationship with Eli Drinkwitz and Shane Beamer is. Shane, we've talked about it. There's times with Eli Drinkwitz, some of the comments he's kind of made post South Carolina victories, and he's beaten South Carolina 2 years in a row, so I guess he can talk. But the comments I think he made about Appalachian State beating South Carolina in 19, and then the comments made last year about how his roster was so depleted and he barely had anybody to fill the roster, yet he was still able to come here and win a football game when I think South Carolina's right in the middle. It seems like Drinkwitz has an axe to grind, but then I didn't realize he went. I did hear him make this comment about Arkansas yesterday, which was kind of random. Do you guys think Missouri has a rival in the SEC?
If it's anybody, I thought it would be South Carolina at this point with everything that has happened, especially with Don Staley and the AD.
Isn't Arkansas their permanent opponent?
That's their
And
permanent
close to them
opponent.
geographically.
Yeah, and so he was asked, one of the questions he was asked about basically Missouri not having a rival, basically kind of being out there left field, being away from everybody, not having a rival. His response to that was, I kind of like the rivalry we have with Arkansas. I can't remember the last time they beat us. And then he went on to say, just because y'all don't think it's a rivalry doesn't mean it ain't a rivalry. Taking a shot at Arkansas. Now, Missouri's won 5 straight over Arkansas, so there's that. But Drinkwitz is only 1-0 against that. He also took a shot at Dan Mullen yesterday. And, of course, he and Mullen do not like each other because of the little brouhaha the two teams had earlier in the, or last year. And I missed this one. But on Dan Mullen and Florida coming to Missouri in November, he said, I'm praying for snow. Dan is going to complain about everything anyway.
I love it. And I love how sensitive you are about this, too, that these guys don't take it with a grain of salt. I think there is, and this is what's missing in all of college sports, is way too corporate, and coaches are way too guarded in their public statements, right? This is why we love Spurrier. And you can't call Drinkwitz the next Spurrier, because Spurrier, even what you were saying, his intramural team, Drinkwitz's intramural team, is that what you're talking about? Did he play college football? Is that what you're telling me? Was it an intramural basketball team maybe? If he played college football, I don't know about it. Nobody else does. He didn't come close to being the Heisman Trophy winner that Steve Spurrier is. So that's kind of the gamble that you take if you're gonna pop off,
mouthy, buddy,
or make some comments. If you're gonna speak confidently publicly, right, you're gonna take some hits. And Spurrier could always do that because he had backed it up as a player and clearly as a coach. Drinkwitz is absolutely backing it up as a coach, especially as it pertains to the South Carolina standpoint, bringing Appalachian State to Williams-Brice and then last year's Missouri win. And I never took that FCS roster thing as a shot at South Carolina. I just took that as him accurately presenting what he had to work with at that time because of a bunch of COVID restrictions and him just kind of putting it out there honestly. But I love the standpoint or the stance that he's taken, the approach that Drinkwitz has taken. And I think just pointing out that makes Shane Beamer more relevant in the conference, that he even referenced the Oscar Delp thing, and that maybe another coach saw it and is saying, hey, well, if he's doing that, what am I going to do with recruiting, or what do I need to do to compete with him? I think it's kind of a backhanded compliment more than anything else. Patrick, how do you take those comments that Bill brought up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all tongue in cheek. I love it. I think Shane Beamer likes it too. It's just, it clearly means he made an effect on Eli, so he at least took note of it. What did he say about Pete Thamel?
Well, no, Pete Thamel, Shane Beamer was making this actually went back to one of Beamer's comments. Kind of have to go back and find the actual tweet. But
this is layered. But
Pete Thamel kind of took a shot at several of the SEC network people all over this past weekend. I have to go back, but basically,
no, he just called Peter Burns a B-rated SEC network guy, right? That Shane
I think it was
name, and just showing his experience that he has within the conference and the whole thing. That's all I saw.
Well, he said I'll have to go back and find it exactly. It was something to the effect of Shane Beamer, and it was a compliment to Beamer, but I thought it was a backhanded slap at like, I don't know about it. Again, I don't know what his relationship is with Peter, what Pete Thamel's relationship is with Peter Burns and Chris Doering and Alyssa Lang and all that. But it was like again, it's way from Monday or Tuesday, but basically referred to him as the B team, the B list guys. And of course, it didn't look like Peter Burns took to that very well. So yesterday, Drinkwitz took a picture with Peter Burns and Chris Doering afterwards, and basically just put out, he said, this is from Eli Drinkwitz Twitter. He said, hey, Pete Thamel missed you at the B team meeting in Hoover today.
See, because Drinkwitz knows where he falls on the totem pole as well right now in the SEC, and is having fun with it, man. He is
Well,
happy.
and he
Don't
no,
get so
I like
sensitive.
him. Listen, I came out of that thinking he might be the most entertaining coach in the SEC because, as you said, he's leaning into it. Like he made a comment, and this wasn't anything bad, but he was talking. He said, look, I haven't been hired at 2 jobs because I'm a good head coach. I've been hired at 2 jobs because I know how to coach quarterbacks and I know how to draw up plays. I'm an X's and O's guy. He goes, but as a head coach, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of average. It's the people I put around me, and I know how to coach quarterbacks.
Awesome.
Like I
Love
thought
it.
he was really good yesterday. And to be quite honest, that's a year away. We got to get through football season, but I'll make sure that I'm in the room for Eli Drinkowitz next year because you are right. He is a personality that goes against the grain of some of the cardboard cutouts, like Kirby Smart, who this week
Right.
could have leaned into the.
That's what Will Muschamp should have done, isn't it? I'm not a head coach. I don't know. I've never done it before. I know how to coach defense, though, and that's what I'm going to do, and we're going to figure it out as we go. If he had done that instead of try to pretend like he's Nick Saban, I think it would have helped a lot, and, man, it would have changed our perception of him a lot, would have allowed us to like him, where he became kind of unlikable. But anybody who pretends to be something they're not, it's difficult to kind of cling to and rally around.
And
So
one
Eli's
other-
going to the cool list. I'll move him to my cool
yeah,
list.
he's on the
Thank
cool
you.
list.
I mean, he said he was new money. That's what
Well, look,
I watched yesterday. The clip is like, I'm what you call new money. My wife still doesn't let me give money to anything. She would kill me if I do it.
Well,
Love
and then he made, and it was, and I don't know where it was, but it got referenced several times, maybe in the hallway or whatever. But people overheard it. He asked Greg Sankey. He said, "So is horns down going to be a 15-yard penalty in the league now?"
Right? Amazing. Good stuff. To me, he comes out of this thing as a much more likable than he was beforehand and moves up the totem pole. Shane Beamer, I think, doing that for a lot of people nationally who weren't maybe very well associated with him or didn't know him as well. We know Darlington Raceway President Kerry Tharp. He knows all about SEC Media Days, being a longtime USC sports information director. Going to talk to him next, get our NASCAR picks in before wrapping up the week. It's the early game here on 107.5 The Game.
What did you say that was so controversial?
No picks this week. I don't think there's a race again for a little while.
Nah, not much.
I think that's what Jen
Just
was
talking
saying.
about how Beamer put out a plea for tight ends and gave his game plan away and specifics, and now we'll be able to game plan against it.
I did come out of that. Drinkowitz reminds me of a guy who you're going to love him if he's your coach, and you're going to hate him if he's not your coach.
Which is exactly the guy I want as my coach.
Yeah, that's why there was a lot of Spurrier in him yesterday. He's 17-6 as a head coach so far. Yeah, no race this weekend, Tim. We don't come back until August 8th with the races.
I didn't say NASCAR picks, did I?
Yeah,
We have a
Gotta
NASCAR pick
Still
segment.
got to
We
get
can
our
still
NASCAR picks.
still make a pick.
No.
See the big bus?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that rolling in. On a bathroom.
All right. Oh, good. Just me. All right. Well, I wanted to read one of these articles that I was trying to read about Texas and Oklahoma. There's an article on Sports Illustrated. And what would happen to what's being labeled as the tag-along 8. That's actually pretty funny. Texas and Oklahoma have expressed interest in joining the Southeastern Conference. There's also conjecture that other leagues could be in play or independent status. Very interesting. We'll read that after the show then, I guess. Mark, I don't think Baylor goes to the ACC. The ACC's got Notre Dame locked up. That's a done deal. If Notre Dame wants to join a conference, and then I think I don't know who the ACC would go after. I don't know if you make a play for West Virginia. I know somebody said that the academics for West Virginia would probably keep them out. Maybe you go for Oklahoma State. I don't know which program would be a better fit. Like who would you rather have? To me, they're about the same. It's just distance.
There's at least rivals in the ACC though. Like West Virginia Pitt's an awesome middle rivalry.
Yeah, you'd have the backyard brawl, and just geographically, West Virginia, Louisville have a history. West Virginia, Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech would be a good one too.
So yeah, you're right. Well, and you're right. The Big East, you bring back some of those Big East games. West Virginia, Syracuse, West Virginia, Boston College.
Yep.
It makes sense. Now, whether it happens or not, that's different. I don't know if the ACC would get UCF. I don't know if they feel they need the Orlando. I don't know if a third team in the state of Florida. Yeah, West Virginia definitely seems to make the most sense. But nothing about college football right now is making a lot of sense. We'll see. Keep an eye peeled today on the news. See how it all shakes out. That's why I've kind of stayed on Twitter more this morning than I typically do because of just seeing if something happens to pop out.
Bill, I might be pointing towards you to carry this segment if there is a bunch of noise around me, which looks like the possibility is there. So if I mute here and give you the point, try to take it over if you can.
Okay, I want a tipping of the cap and going to the bullpen for the lefty then. What is it? You got to turn on the sign first, I think.
Yep. Patrick, will you turn up Carrie in the studio? Final segment of the week, and what a week it has been. Fortunately, we get some seasoned wisdom, some experience for a guy who has seen a lot of things go down from the sports information director view for a couple of decades at South Carolina. Now the Darlington Raceway president, and Kerry Tharp, who's awfully busy coming up. What are you guys, 40-some days away now? Is that where you are?
Yeah, we're right at about 46 days, I believe, from our Labor Day event. And, those days are clicking off. They're not getting any longer. So, but we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great event.
Not coincidentally, Bill, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to get this one in real quick. Not coincidentally, about the same amount of time as football season starts around college football as well. How did those two preparation periods compare, Harry, from your perspective? Getting ready for a race at Darlington and South Carolina specifically in all your years as being the sports information director there, ramping up for college football season.
Well, there's a lot of similarities. You certainly have to make sure that your facility is ready. And we always had people there at Carolina that made sure of that. And then, there's a lot of other preparations that you do, just making sure that, when you put on that event, that your checklist is totally buttoned up. And so, that was the same way with, preparing for a college football season. Now in college football, you had usually about 6 home games. Here in Darlington, we have, I guess, what you would call 2 big home games, but they're spread out May and September. But still, you bring in people from all over the country. You want to make sure they have a great experience. So there's a lot of similarities. In fact, a lot of media opportunities that you have to, fulfill. And but I enjoyed both getting ready for college football season and now certainly getting ready for a big NASCAR.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, and you kind of were touching on that, but at this point in time, when you're 45 days out and you're putting together something as big as this race, what keeps you up at night right now? What is the thing that you personally turns your stomach? We gotta make sure this is right. What is it at this point that you go, man? I'm very not concerned that you'll blow up, but just your biggest worry at this point.
Well, probably the one thing that you keep in the back of your mind and you have really zero control over is the weather. And, in a college football situation, really the only time that they halt a game is if there's lightning. And, but they'll play in the rain. It's tough for us to race in the rain. So, we've had some experience with inclement weather here at Darlington. 2 years ago, we had a sellout crowd and it started raining around 4 o'clock. And, we didn't start the race until almost 10. And so those are some of the things that keep you a little concerned. Again, that's something that you have zero control over. What does the Bible say? Don't worry about things you can't have any control over. But everything else is, we got a great team here, and I know our fan experience is going to be second to none. I know our facility is going to look great. I think the track is going to be in great shape. All of our sponsors and people that are coming in, I think they're going to have a great time. And, we just want our fans to have an experience of a lifetime, and to make sure that when they leave Darlington late Sunday night, early Monday morning, that they say, hey, I'm coming back to that place. So I guess just making sure too that the fans have an outstanding experience, and some you can't please everybody all the time, but certainly you want to try to please as many people as you can, so they'll come back.
All right, now you've got me asking another question, because believe it or not, Kerry, some of these things I'm new at. When you say the track's going to be in great shape, is it like a football field from standpoint? You always going to have somebody working on it? Is there something that you do with the track weekly or daily just to keep it in good shape, or how does that go?
Well, that's a great question. And Darlington, we have an aged surface here. It's the last time it was repaved was in 2008. But drivers like that. But there's some things that you have to do to make sure that if you have a few blemishes on the track or some areas maybe that need a little extra TLC, that you get some experts in and they take a look and make sure that the racing surface is what it should be when you bring in the top motorsports in the country. And so we're always out there looking at the track. We're making improvements to our facility when it comes to whether it be ways for people to get in the facility, to get out of the facility. There's repairs that have to be made to some of the different buildings on property, and certainly we'll be starting to paint the track walls here probably in the next couple of weeks, and making sure that all the proper signage is up, and that type of thing. And it takes a long time to get a facility totally where you want it to be. Now, I will say that I think our facility 365 days a year looks pretty daggone good. But when you have, when you're bringing the eyes and ears of the sports world into your property for about a 3 or 4 day period, you want that place to look like, Disneyland. So, we work very, very hard on that. And like I said, keeping the track surface in good shape is something that we take a lot of pride in as well.
He's Darlington Raceway President Kerry Tharp on Twitter at Kerry_Tharp, DarlingtonRaceway.com, where you can find all the information. Go get your tickets now. Kerry, before we go, don't have much time, but you were there on the staff as Sports Information Director at Carolina back in the day when the SEC transition happened. Are Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, in your opinion, on the outside looking in?
Wow, I tell you, that kind of came out of nowhere. Doing that news a couple of days ago. I mean, the big sports fan in you probably says, yeah, that would be outstanding. But then, then you look at who you got to play every year. Do I think it'll happen? I think it wouldn't shock me. But it wouldn't shock me that it didn't happen either. So I don't know of all the politics that's going on within the conference right now, but to add 2 institutions, not just athletically, but academically, the caliber of Texas and Oklahoma. And not only are they great in football, I mean, they're great in other sports too, baseball.
Great way for us to finish our week. Sorry to cut you short there, Kerry.
That's fine.
This has been the early game here on 107.5.
Take care.
Oh,
Need to work on our hand signals there, huh?
well, I was just gonna pull down. I just pulled down the satellite. I was just gonna let him talk unless you cut him off.
Right. But I thought you were going hard there.
Well, I was giving you the count, but if it wasn't gonna work, I mean, I wouldn't just let it play over him.
Right. So that ID needs to run again at the top of the hour here. Oh, instead of the Dan Patrick Show intro. Just legally, it has to run every hour.
So I'm gonna just put an ID in.
Yeah.
Just right at the sports minute.
Man, as always, thanks for helping out with the Gary thing right there. Got a little loud here on the porch.
No, no problem. Easy to do.
Thank you guys for checking us out as usual. I'm looking forward to that new SEC short now on Texas and OU. You guys haven't seen it yet, have you?
I did. It was funny. I thought they could have done a little bit. It's like they put it together. They put it together so quick. I thought it could have been a little bit funnier and a little bit longer, but it's worth it.
Comedy's tough, man. All right. See you guys on Monday. I think we're up to 780 something. I think next Thursday is when we're going to try to really send people to the old video stream. And we'll see what we can get done out at Beamer's golf thing. Still have to figure out all those details, but it should be fun.
Yeah, be good.
All right. See you guys. Thanks for putting up with me.